Welcome to Shutter Fanfic.
Like, subscribe and hype video.
The MC is reborn as a god of destruction from Dragon Ball.
Crossed the wrong seam and tapped the quadrant he named. The dome flexed and made a small noise no one but me could hear. He patched it with a drip of fresh light and let it hold. Again, he said. We went through 15 more variations and never triggered the ring's complaint. I kept my movements neat. He kept the corrections neat. The ocean below stayed flat. He dropped the dome and exhaled. All right. You can take a hint and you can follow rules. I'll buy Clark dinner for being right. I shrugged. He's often right. I try not to tell him. Hal cocked his head. You tell him all the time. I tell him when he annoys me, I said. Superman did not comment. Hal looked over the empty water, then back to me. Time to press a little. We're going to train a takedown that doesn't involve punching holes in anything. I build a foam, you push into it, and try to move. The foam limits your motion. The ring reads your output rate and closes the space around you without crushing. If you use the eraser, it fails the point. Foam, I repeated. You put a god in a beanbag. Less comfortable, he said. He gestured, and the ring disgorged a cylindrical wall of semi-solid light around me. It was dense and noisy with an internal grain, almost like 1,000 soft struts in a pile. It pressed evenly into my skin and joints in a firm way with no sharp edges. I tried to lift my right arm quickly. The foam pushed back slow and steady. I switched from a pull to a slow move and the foam let me go a few centimeters and then pushed me back. Hal explained while he watched the readings. Villain goes limp, foam holds and waits. Villain thrashes, foam holds and squeezes into soft angles without cutting off air or blood. Hero wants to get cuffs on without wrecking 6 blocks. I worked my forearm through an arc and mapped how the foam shifted. I found the layer that wanted to stretch and shoved a thin wave into it, not enough to cut, just enough to change its rhythm. The foam corrected, then settled back into place. It had a logic. I mapped it. You're thinking hard, Hal said. Learning the pattern, I said. I pushed sideways with my shoulder and rotated my hip into the opposite direction at the same time so the foam had to solve 2 curves. It slowed more than before. He stared. You're already gaming it. That's the job, I said. He tightened the foam around my ankles and knees. I moved my toes in the smallest line I could and switched to a depressurize then press pattern that the foam had to follow to comply with its own safety logic. The ring solved it and eased pressure at the wrong spot for it and the right spot for me. I stepped 1 centimeter. Then another. Hal laughed once. You're trouble. Superman broke in, calm. Stay within safety. The ocean is stable. Copy, Hal said. He dissolved the foam and shook out his hands, even though the ring did the heavy lifting. Okay. You tested that. Time for choke and release drills. Sounds violent, I said. Less than it sounds, he said. He built 6 close-fitting hoops around my torso, arms, and legs. Each hoop had a patch of dimmer green on the inside. You bias a hoop, the patch senses it and opens to vent the effort. I use that data to lock you down on the next pass. This is for when we don't want a brawl. I rolled my shoulder into the nearest patch and leaned 2% of my ki into it. The panel opened and gave way an inch. The ring took a snapshot and shortened the hoop by the inch it gave me. I then pushed the opposite side without warning. The ring read the mismatch and corrected after a half second. I rode that moment and leaned into the gap with a clean shift. Hal smiled even while the ring fixed the hole and held me centered. Do people hate you in training? He asked. Yes, I said. He moved the hoops down and tested my footwork. I moved the way I knew to move when the ground wasn't mine, and I kept my energy quiet and tight. He ran 3 cycles without catching me wrong. He finally pulled the hoops away and massaged his wrist like he felt it. Last major drill. We'll go big and then quit. I build a cage, then a second cage, then a moving shell. You push evenly and try to walk to the edge. I, as an honest professional, will try not to get you salty. Do it, I said. He did. The first cage went up in a clean circle. The second cage went up around it with the hex pattern rotated. The shell wrapped both in a translucent layer that rippled once to show it was free moving. He gripped the air and pulled the shell. The shell slid around me. The cages stayed still. It was a test of balance and attention. He made the shell spin slow and then fast. I kept my center fixed in my chest and not in my feet and walked forward with small, exact steps that the ring couldn't bully into a stagger. When the shell went too fast, I kept my eyes on a single point inside it and adjusted my breath to match my steps. My skin felt the field, but my legs did what I wanted. Hal slowed and then stopped. He didn't talk right away. He watched the numbers in the air only he could see, then finally raised his eyebrows. You didn't cheat, he said. You didn't wipe anything. And you didn't dump a wave into the water. I shrugged. You told me not to. Superman's voice came down from above. Good work. Coastline is calm. No wakes. I'm calling this safe. Hal dropped everything but his platform and stretched his back. His ring dimmed to a softer glow. You know, you and I could actually do this once a week and no one would have to rebuild a building. Careful, I said. You're inviting me. He pointed at me. I am. Cyborg chimed in with a lighter tone. For the record, the watchtower did not send you there to punish you. It had a logic hiccup. I filed the bug. Also, this data is gold. Happy to help your spreadsheets, I said. You will be when I stop the station from beaming you at Hal anytime you fidget, he said. Hal laughed. It can beam him at me. I'll bill you for your tacos. Denied, Cyborg said, and cut out. Hal turned his face up. Clark, you still there? I am, Superman said. Delta 7 is quiet. Readings are stable. Good, Hal said. He looked at me again. You got fuel left? I rolled my shoulders. Always. Then I want one more thing, he said. Not a fight. A hold. I build a ring-only box as tight as I can and you hold your energy steady at a fixed number for 1 full minute. No drift, no rise, no drop. The Guardians never trained for someone who can sit in the middle of a field and not wobble. I want to log that. Pick the number, I said. 27% of whatever you did against Doomsday, he said. Hold it. No leaks. I nodded and exhaled through my nose. He built the box. It was a simple cube, small, a meter on a side. I stepped in and stood still. I lifted my hand and filled the air around my skin with a smooth key envelope set to the number he asked. The ring tasted the air and hummed. Hal's jaw tightened in a way that meant he was concentrating on column readouts. I kept the output steady. I kept my breathing smooth. My heart rate dropped a hair, then settled. Halfway through, he said nothing. I said nothing. The ocean did nothing. The cube stayed put, no shiver, no noise. The energy stayed clean. 10 seconds, he said softly. I held it. Time, he said. He dismissed the box at once and rubbed his eyes. Ring says no drift. That's weird. Or skilled, I said. That too, he said, and smiled. Thanks. Again, I said. You're serious, he said, but he wasn't surprised. He looked up once to the night and the dull glow of cities far away and then tapped his ear. "Clark, you okay with one more plateau set? You have 20 minutes before I rotate to Europe for patrol," Superman said. "Use 10. You heard him, Hal said. "One more, then we eat for real." He rebuilt the dome from the first drill, this time with faint ribs only visible when the light hit them at an angle. He stepped inside and locked it. "Your turn to practice restraint again," he said. "No cut. Push until the ribs sing. Then stop." "I can do that," I said. I lifted my hand and pressed. The dome pushed back. I pressed again, harder, in a slow, smooth climb. The ribs sang. It was a thin tone. I stopped. Hal flicked 2 fingers and the ring projected a number in the air. He made an approving noise. He asked for 3 more at different angles. I gave him 3 green lights and a smile I didn't bother to hide. He dropped the dome and shook his head, amused. "You really don't get tired." "I like work that makes sense," I said. "This made sense," he said, and tapped the side of his helmet. "Clark, we're done. No property damage. No ocean damage. No bruises." "Good to hear," Superman said. "I'll clear the corridor. Head back when you're ready." Hal dismissed the platforms and hovered level with me. "We go home slow," he said. "I want you to enjoy the boring." I glanced down at the dark sheet of water and the line of coast far away. "You and I define that word differently." "Tonight, that's the point," he said, grinning. We angled toward shore without any rush. The wind felt clean. His ring stayed dim. My key sat under the skin and didn't move. He looked over once, measuring, but didn't add a lecture or a joke. He didn't need to. The city lights brightened ahead. The runway lines came back into view. The airbase lay quiet. He kept the pace gentle all the way down and put his boots on the concrete with a soft sound. I touched down beside him. He loosened his jacket and stretched his neck. "I'll do the report," he said. "You don't have to stick around while I tell Bruce you behaved." "You sure about that word?" I said. "Tonight," he said. "Yeah." I stood there and listened to the nighttime noise. A service cart beeped in the distance. A hangar door rattled then stopped. It was a clean soundscape. I accepted it. Hal pointed past the fence at a strip of lights. "Taco place is still open." "Then we move," I said. He grinned. "Now you're speaking my language again." We started walking. The fence line ran straight, and the sidewalk carried us toward the small cluster of late-night spots near the base road. He tucked his hands back in his jacket. I kept mine loose and relaxed. The COMM stayed quiet. The night did what nights do when the world is between emergencies. It was fine. Chapter 18, Plate of Powhatan. Coast City after midnight felt settled. The airbase sat behind us with its slow lights and quiet engines. The sidewalks near the fence were clean and mostly empty. A few late spots stayed open on the service road, a taco stand with a lit menu, a coffee place with 2 people inside, and a counter window that sold things loaded with sauce and cheese. Hal pointed at the taco stand first because he had momentum, then looked at me, then looked at the second place. "You strike me as a chili fries person," he said. "I eat anything that does the job," I said. He grinned and waved us forward. "Then 2 al pastor and 2 asada, extra lime, extra salsa," he told the guy at the window without asking me. "I'll try one," I said. "You'll eat both," Hal said. The food came out fast. We stood under the yellow light and ate. The tortillas were warm, the meat was clean, the salsa had a kick. Hal took half a breath between bites and looked pleased in a simple way. I finished mine in steady bites, then gave him a look that made him laugh. "Told you," he said, wiping his mouth. "This is the part of patrol the reports never include." "It is acceptable," I said, which made him laugh harder. We walked a half block to a curb near the late counter window. The sign offered fries, gravy, and cheese curds. The smell of fryer oil sat in the air. I felt fine. I also felt the familiar itch under the skin that never went away when the world went quiet. Hal saw it and rolled his eyes with a small smile. "You look like you're about to do math with your hands." "Thinking," I said. "Does it involve not blowing anything up?" he said. "It involves building," I said. "Not breaking." He raised an eyebrow. "That would be a first." I looked at the counter window and then back at him. "Creation." He narrowed his eyes. "Say that again without making me call Clark." "I want to learn creation energy," I said. "In my head the roles are simple. Destruction is one side. Creation is the other. In Dragon Ball, the Supreme Kai handles creation. Beerus handles destruction. I have one side already. I can use Ki. This is not out of reach." Hal leaned a shoulder against the wall. "You sure you want to try a new trick on the sidewalk?" "I will keep it small," I said. "If I fail, the ground stays in one piece." He checked the sky without moving his head. His ring pulsed once. "Clark is still in orbit. Vic is awake. I am not running cover for you if you turn a streetlight into a pretzel." "I will not touch the streetlight," I said. Hal exhaled and pushed his ring finger into his palm like he was adjusting a glove that did not need adjusting. "Fine. You get a bubble. Small one. I will filter the air. If something smells like burning plastic, I will scold you." "Understood," I said. He lifted his hand. A thin green sphere appeared around me with no noise. The inside air felt steady. A faint ring HUD tracked my pulse and temperature without asking. I ignored it and raised my hands. Destruction Ki sat where it always sat, quiet and sharp. It wanted a target and a command. It did not fight me. It was obedient. Creation would not be that. I had never shaped creativeness directly. I could only set a boundary and remove what did not fit. That was the opposite of what I wanted. I kept my eyes open and drew Ki without color. Raw Ki, not the destructive layer. The neutral version sat soft and warm under my palms. My heart rate did not change. I balanced it and imagined a shape. A plate, then food, then texture, then heat. No erasure. Real assembly. First attempt, I pinched the air between my fingers and tried to condense it. The atoms in the bubble vibrated in their pattern. I pushed them closer. The ring pinged me once because the bubble recorded a drop in pressure. I stopped, pulled more from the top of the bubble, and distributed the deficit through the edges to remove any stress on the dome. That held. The air in my hand turned milky for a half second and then went back to clear. "Nothing," Hal said, watching. "Calibration," I said. Second attempt, I pulled water out of the air with a simple draw. Hal's ring recorded humidity drop and added 2% from outside to keep the bubble consistent. I shaped the water into a disc, then tried to freeze it without cold by just stilling the vibration. It set. I had an ice plate. That was not creation. It was rearrangement. It cracked down the center and fell apart under its own weight after 2 seconds. I closed my right hand and erased the pieces before they hit the curb. I watched Hal's face. He did not flinch. "Progress," he said. "It did not explode." "I am not trying to explode water," I said. Third attempt, carbon lattice. The simplest solid. I asked for a structure, not mass from nothing. I used the neutral Ki as glue and pulled trace carbon out of the bubble that Hal gave me. The ring beeped and complained more loudly now. He patched the bubble again. "Do not starve yourself," Hal said. "You are making my ring work for a living." "I am borrowing," I said. I made a thin sheet first to test control. It held for a heartbeat and then slumped. I tried to cross-brace it with rings of the same material. It held longer. The edges curled. I adjusted and placed the bracing inside the sheet rather than on the edge. It held for 8 seconds. Then the lattice failed because I tried to build too wide without adding mass. I erased it before the ring got upset. Hal rubbed the back of his neck and kept the mood even. "You want me to build you a template?" "That will help," I said. He built a simple plate shape out of light and held it with 2 fingers. The construct had a clean edge and a flat bottom. I scanned it with my eyes, then copied the math in my head. I built a plate of carbon with the same curve and thickness as the light. I made the lip very slightly thicker to help with strength. It stayed up. The ring did not complain because I did not rob the bubble this time. I used my own key to enforce the bonds. That cost more energy than I liked, but it kept the plate stable. Hal tapped the edge with a knuckle. It sounded like a plate. He grinned. "All right. You have a plate. You going to put anything on it or glare at it until it gets shy?" "Next step," I said. He stepped a half meter to the side and let the ring bubble widen by a small margin. I looked at the menu board with the fries and gravy and cheese curds. I ran through the ingredient list in my head. Potatoes. Oil. Gravy. Curds. Salt. Pepper. I could not make fat from nothing without stealing air again. I could not create protein without mass. I could convert if I limited scope. I could not set true creation yet. I went for the easy part first. Salt. Sodium and chlorine were not rare. I separated what I needed from the bubble with gentle draws. The ring replaced the missing fraction from outside air to keep the bubble safe. I crystallized salt into clean grains, then ground them into a finer powder with a short twist of energy. That worked. Hal looked at it carefully and nodded. "Looks like salt," he said. "I will not taste test that." "Fair," I said. Cheese curds were harder. I did not have the base. I could make a protein mass by converting nitrogen and carbon and hydrogen in a rough ratio, but it would not taste like dairy. I could build texture and water content and fat content, but it would sit wrong on the tongue. I did it anyway to see. The first attempt was rubber. I crushed it in my palm and erased it. The second attempt was closer but bland. Hal's nose wrinkled from the smell. "Do not poison yourself," he said. "I do not get food poisoning," I said, but I understood the point. I set curds aside for later. Fries next. That was a shape and a base carbohydrate, and that I could do by converting a small section of the plate into a starchy matrix and then rebuilding the plate under it. It was not efficient. I did not care. I mapped 30 sticks across the face of the plate, then converted the top layer into potato analog. The color looked right. The starch content felt right under my energy. I needed oil and heat. "Step back half a step," I said. Hal stepped back. He made the bubble thicker by a hair and activated a smell filter. I gathered a small amount of fatty chain molecules out of the bubble by taking from my own energy rather than the air. I got enough to coat the fries. I suspended the oil around the fries in a thin layer. I increased thermal energy right at the oil and nowhere else. The scent of cooking hit hard. The fries went from pale to gold. The ring warning flashed because heat rose too fast. I managed the vent carefully and kept the smell inside the bubble until it calmed. Hal sniffed anyway and looked surprised. "That smells real." "It is food," I said. He narrowed his eyes. "You sound confident for a man who just made rubber." "I adjust," I said. Gravy. I needed a fat, a flour, a liquid, salt, pepper, and stock. I did not have stock. I could build a broth profile with salt content and savory compounds, but it would be a blend and not a real reduction. I did it anyway, picked a clean ratio, and kept the starch low so it would not turn into paste. I put a small pan construct out of carbon next to the plate and made the roux in it fat and starch, cooked until it browned, then added the liquid and whisked it with ghee into a smooth sauce. The smell improved and then evened. Hal leaned his head. "That's gravy," he said. He sounded half impressed and half suspicious. "It better be." I blew on the surface because it was hot and looked at the texture. It dripped with a consistent line. It did not clump. I stripped out one clump that started to form and erased it before it ruined the pan. I poured a little on a fry to see how it spread. It coated without sliding off like water. Good enough. Curds again. The second attempt had failed. I tried a third. I stopped thinking in protein names and built the curd by texture and moisture content. I aimed for soft, squeaky, not melted, and lightly salted. I used the smallest possible conversion to avoid messing with the bubble. I made 5 pieces that looked right and pressed the surface with a finger. The give matched the expected profile. I tore one in half. The inside pulled apart and did not crumble. I set them on the plate. Hal watched the whole thing and did not interrupt. He had the patience of a pilot waiting for a runway to clear. He folded his arms and shifted his weight. "You are making me hungry again," he said. "Then you help test," I said. He lifted both hands. "I am not eating your science. You eat it first." "Fine," I said. I layered the fries on the plate with a small shake to settle them, put the curds on top, then poured the gravy. The curds softened at the edges and did not melt. The fries stayed crisp on the outside. The plate held heat without burning my hands. I picked up one fry with a curd and gravy and bit down. The potato tasted correct. The gravy had salt and body. The curd squeaked between my teeth. It needed more pepper. I added pepper by condensing small grains and dusting them on top. Second bite tasted better. I nodded once out of reflex. Hal watched my face and relaxed. "So. It is good," I said. He hesitated and then held out his hand. "Give me one." I handed him one with his ring. He took it and bit. He chewed, squinted, and then nodded. "This is not terrible." "That is a win," I said. He finished chewing and looked down at the plate with actual interest. "You built this from nothing or from the air?" "From the air and from my energy," I said. "This is not pure creation. This is conversion with a stable hold and small-scale assembly. I did not set a universe seed. I set a plate and food." He snorted at the phrase but did not argue the point. He pointed at the plate. "You going to finish that?" "Yes," I said. He held up a finger. "One more bite then." "For science." I gave him another. He ate it and looked satisfied. "All right. You win. You learned something. You did not crater the sidewalk. I am proud." "I failed at true creation," I said evenly. "That is fine. I will try again later." He shot me a look. "Not here." "Not here," I said. He checked his ring and listened to a beat only he could hear. "Clark says Delta 7 is quiet. Vic says the watchtower patch is ready tomorrow. You get a pass until then. Do not teach the vending machines to make curry." "I will not," I said. He relaxed against the wall and watched me eat without rush. The powder stayed warm and steady. The curds did not break. The fries did not go soggy faster than expected. It was a good test for control. I ate until the plate was empty. I set it on my palm and looked at it. It had no cracks. It had handled heat, oil, and weight. I erased it in a clean line and left no residue. Hal tilted his head. You could have taken it home. I like clean finishes, I said. He smiled. I know. We started walking back toward the base because it made sense to move and not stand in a pool of fryer smell. The street was quiet except for a car 3 blocks away. A dog barked once and then went silent. The air sat cool against my face. Hal tapped his ear. Clark, you get all that? Superman answered. I heard enough to be concerned and enough to be impressed. Concerned because of me, I said. Concerned because you tried a new energy pathway in public, he said. Impressed because you kept it small. It was food, I said. He paused for a half-second that told me he was adjusting tone. Did it taste good? Yes, I said. Hal laughed. It did. He fed me a fry. I am still here. Good, Superman said. Please do not offer it to Batman. I was not going to, Hal said. We reached the base fence. Hal flashed his badge at the gate out of habit even though no one else was visible. The guard waved without standing up. We crossed the lot without speaking. The hangar's side door was still open a little. Hal slid it wider without turning on the big lights and sat on a crate near the entrance. I stood. He looked at me with an expression that said he wanted to say something without making it a speech. You are going to try that again. Don't answer. I know you. When you do, put a roof over your head that we own. Invite Vic. Invite me if you need a template. Do not try milk solids from the air near a school. I agree, I said. He nodded, satisfied. Good. I leaned my shoulder against the doorframe and rested there. My body felt calm. My energy felt clean. The curiosity was still there. The result helped. Hal looked at my hands. You look less antsy. I ate, I said. You also solved a puzzle, he said. That usually helps. I did not respond to that. He was not wrong. I did not feel the need to say it. He stood again and stretched. I am going to do 3 laps around the block at ring idle and then sleep for 5 hours. You going to hover over the runway and stare at clouds? I may sit on a roof and think, I said. He squinted. No glow. Or the station will call me again. I will keep it off, I said. He stepped out into the night and floated without a sound. Good night. Good night, I said. He disappeared into the dark air. I waited until he cleared the far hangar, then lifted off slowly and settled on the hangar roof. The gravel under my boots shifted in small crunches. I sat with my legs over the edge. The city lights were a line at the far side. The ocean was a darker line. The air moved over my face and through my hair. I brought my hands up and looked at my fingers. I turned them palm up and down. I tried to imagine true creation energy in them. I could not feel it. I felt destruction ki. I felt neutral ki. I felt air, concrete, heat. I did not feel the spark that would assemble matter from nothing and hold it stable without cost. I did not need to feel it today. I thought about the plate. I thought about the steps that succeeded. I thought about the failures and wrote the reasons in my head in a clean list. I thought about safe environments and template use. I thought about letting Cyborg watch next time so he could pull data without guessing. I thought about Diana's reaction to food conjured at her table and did not smile out loud even though the thought was funny. I leaned back on my hands and breathed once, slow. The air smelled like clean concrete and a little salt. I was not bored anymore. Chapter 19, The Whitelist Protocol. The sun hadn't fully risen yet. The air above the base was clean and quiet, tinted by a faint orange line far out over the Pacific. The hangar roof was cold under my palms, but I stayed there anyway, legs stretched out, back against a vent. I could hear the soft hum of a distant generator. A few airmen were starting their shifts below, their voices faint but organized. It was peaceful enough. My COMM clicked once in my ear. The tone was mechanical and calm. "Transmission from Victor Stone," the watchtower's relay system said. I answered with a tap. "Morning call." "That's new." Cyborg's voice came through, crisp but friendly. "You've got a standing invite. Superman signed off on it an hour ago." "What for?" I asked. "I'm patching the watchtower's safety matrix, and I want you to imprint a clean signal for your non-destructive energy pattern," he said. "You know, so the station stops teleporting you whenever it gets nervous." I smiled faintly. "You say that like it's a bad thing." "It was funny once," he said flatly. "Not twice." "Fine. I'll help," I said. "How fast do you need me there?" "Fast would be good," he said. "The calibration systems are already up. I've got Jayon running diagnostics on the long-range sensors, and Clark's in orbit supervising the relay connection. The station is at full operational mode. You might as well get your part done before I start shutting things down for other tests." I stood, brushed off my pants, and looked at the horizon again. "On my way." "Good," Cyborg said. "Don't scare the station on entry this time." The COMM cut. I crouched slightly and pushed upward with a soft pulse of key. The concrete fell away beneath me. The air grew colder as I rose higher, and the base became smaller until it was a pattern of grey shapes under a rising sun. Clouds thinned out near the upper atmosphere. I adjusted trajectory and locked onto the watchtower's orbital position above Earth's equator. From this angle, the planet looked balanced: calm oceans, faint storms over the Pacific, and small dots of light on the night side still fading under daylight. The watchtower gleamed above it, slow and steady in rotation. The station's outer gates registered me almost immediately. "Unidentified high-energy object detected," the automated defense system said in a precise tone. Then a different voice, Victor's, cut in fast. "Override, Stone Alpha 09. Friendly incoming. Cancel alert." The turrets on the outer hull retracted. The entry panel slid open. "Welcome back," Cyborg said through the intercom. "Try to use the door this time." I smirked. "You really should thank me for testing your defenses." He answered dryly. "They don't need that kind of stress test." The airlock opened, and I stepped through. The pressurization hissed once before the inner doors parted. The corridor ahead was silver and blue like always, polished and sterile. The hum of power conduits filled the silence. I could hear faint voices echoing from somewhere deeper inside the main deck, probably Jayon speaking with Superman through one of the communications channels. Cyborg was waiting at the far end, standing in front of a console that stretched from floor to ceiling. Blue data streams moved vertically through transparent panels. His right hand was buried in the interface, merged with the machine's surface as his systems linked directly. He turned slightly when he saw me. "Good," he said. "You made good time." "I had breakfast already," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "The Powhatan." "Word travels fast," I said. "Hal posted about it," he said, amused. "He said you made fries out of air." "He's exaggerating," I said. "It was nitrogen." Cyborg sighed and shook his head. "Whatever it was, I hope it didn't upset the local ecosystem." "Everything's fine," I said. "What's the plan?" He gestured at a raised platform near the console. "Stand there. That's the energy calibration pad. The station will read your key output in its base and destructive forms. Then we'll map a safe frequency for your non-hostile emissions. That way, if you get bored again, it won't trigger containment or transport. Sounds simple, I said. It would be if your energy wasn't actively confusing our sensors, he replied. I stepped onto the pad. The floor was metallic but warm from internal heat exchangers. A faint grid of light spread outward from the center beneath my feet. Cyborg's arm split into several smaller cables, each connecting to different sections of the console. All right. First step, baseline scan. Just relax and let the system read your normal energy signature. No flares, no focus. Got it. The light under me brightened. I felt a subtle vibration travel up through my legs, into my chest, then fade out again. The air felt denser, like the station itself was listening to my pulse. Stable, Cyborg said. Now, show me low-level destruction key. Keep it confined to a small field around your body. I let my breath settle and lifted my right hand slightly. The violet hue of destruction energy surfaced along my skin, faint but clear. The console flickered, registering the frequency. Cyborg's eyes moved across the data streams. All right, that's reading in the expected range. But your output fluctuates by 2% every half second. That's natural adaptation, I said. Key refines itself under attention. Try keeping it steady, he said. I focused, lowering the fluctuation by syncing breath to heartbeat. The light stabilized. The hum of the pad evened out. Better, Cyborg said. Now, shut it down slowly. We'll capture the decay pattern for reference. The violet light faded back into my skin. The console dimmed again. Cyborg nodded. That's one down. Now for your creative energy. I assume you can replicate what you did last night. I smiled faintly. You want me to make you lunch? Just a simple object, he said. Something stable enough for the sensors to analyze. The goal isn't the food, it's the structure. Fine, I said. But if it ends up edible, I'm not sharing. Noted, he said, deadpan. I took a breath and extended both hands forward. Neutral key filled the air, smooth and calm. I shaped it without command, just intention. A small sphere of pale energy formed between my palms. I compressed it, thinning it into a plate shape. The grid beneath me reacted immediately, sending up threads of blue light to scan the formation. Cyborg muttered to himself as he read the data. Frequency difference is minimal. Structure appears organic. Composition carbon, hydrogen, trace nitrogen. Density stable. No visible degradation. I formed the rest of the object just a simple metal-like plate. It solidified with a faint sound. I let it float. Good, Cyborg said. Now dissolve it. I snapped my fingers lightly. The plate disintegrated into dust that vanished before it reached the floor. Cyborg leaned closer to the console. The signature matches your baseline with a frequency shift of exactly 4.2%. Meaning? I asked. Meaning we can tell the difference between your destructive and constructive patterns, he said. That's all I needed. I'll program this range as a safe zone. I tilted my head slightly. That simple. He smiled faintly. You're lucky I'm good at this. He started typing commands faster than human fingers could move. Streams of code filled the screen. The air above the console shimmered as new protocols integrated with the station's security system. I crossed my arms and waited. So what happens if I sneeze energy again? The station will ignore it unless it spikes above the safe threshold, he said. No more unplanned trips to Coast City. That's a shame, I said. He laughed quietly. Hal will live. The lights around the console dimmed for a second, then stabilized. A soft beep sounded from the platform under my feet. Calibration complete, Cyborg said. Step off. I did. The platform powered down with a quiet hum. He detached his hand from the console, flexed it once, and looked at me. The system just saved you from at least 3 future headaches. The watchtower now recognizes your signature as a friendly variable within a controlled range. Good, I said. Now it won't panic when I stretch. Exactly, he said. But there's one more step. I raised an eyebrow. There always is. I want to test the new filter Liv, he said. That means you're going to generate low-level energy fluctuations while I run auto-diagnostics through the defense AI. Fine, I said. How strong? Keep it at 5%, he said. We'll run a full cycle for 5 minutes. If nothing triggers, we're in the clear. I nodded. Start it. He keyed a command. The station lights dimmed briefly as the defense AI came online in passive mode. A low hum filled the air, like the sound of distant machinery spinning up. All right, he said. You can begin. I spread my hands apart and released faint pulses of energy, just enough to shimmer the air. Each pulse was timed, slow and even. The station's sensors adjusted immediately, mapping the output in real time. Cyborg monitored from his console, his mechanical eye scanning multiple displays at once. No red flags. AI recognizes your pattern. Keep going. I increased the pulse strength slightly. The hum deepened, then leveled out again. Still good, he said. You're at 8% now. Let's see 10, I said. He hesitated, then nodded. All right. Go ahead. I raised the energy level carefully. The lights in the corridor flickered for a half second, then stabilized. The platform's grid showed no distress. The air pressure held steady. Cyborg smiled slightly. Perfect. The AI's learning curve synced on the first pass. It's tagging your frequency as non-hostile. Meaning? I asked. Meaning you can practice without it trying to shove you into a teleport tube, he said. That's progress, I said. Big progress, he replied. I'll finalize the code now. Give me another minute. He typed again, locking in the new parameters. I stayed still, energy quieting back into normal key. The hum of the station softened. After a moment, the main lights brightened, and the soft chime of system completion echoed through the corridor. All done, Cyborg said. Congratulations, you're officially whitelisted. I stepped closer to look at the data stream still flickering across the screen. Show me. He turned the display so I could see. The interface showed my name, energy output profile, and a color-coded range that marked the new safety parameters. It was simple. Clean. Efficient. Not bad, I said. I try, he said. The intercom beeped suddenly. Superman's voice filled the room, calm and steady. Victor. Everything looks stable. All readings nominal, Cyborg said. He's calibrated and cleared. Good, Superman said. That'll make things easier when we run planetary defense synchronization next week. I'll send the logs to you for review, Cyborg said. Superman paused briefly. Thank you. Both of you. The COMM cut. I looked at Cyborg. Planetary defense synchronization. He nodded. Annual system test. Every League member's energy signature gets cross-referenced with the Watchtower's main defense AI. It helps the station differentiate between friendlies and hostiles during global crises. You just got added to the official database. So I'm part of the system now, I said. Pretty much, he said. Clark figured it was better to have you registered than risk the station misreading you again. I smiled faintly. He's smart. He's cautious, Cyborg said. Big difference. Same result, I said. He laughed softly. Fair. The sound of the watchtower's systems filled the room again, steady, even, predictable. I watched the data streams for a while, tracing the smooth lines of light across the transparent panels. Cyborg leaned back against the console, folding his arms. You know, he said after a moment, you could have just told me you wanted a lab to play in. I'd have set one up without all the drama. I like learning the hard way, I said. He rolled his eyes. You and Hal both. Speaking of Hal, I said. He told you about the food, right? He sent me a picture, Cyborg said. He also said you made cheese curds from nothing. Not from nothing, I corrected. From nitrogen. Don't make me regret asking, he said. I smiled slightly. It worked. He shook his head with a small grin. You're unbelievable. I get that a lot, I said. He gestured at the console. You're good to go. The station will log your presence automatically from now on. You don't need to announce yourself every time you come up here. That's convenient, I said. It is, he agreed. But try not to abuse it. I make no promises, I said. He gave me a look that mixed amusement and mild exasperation. I'll take what I can get. I started toward the exit. The corridor doors opened automatically as I approached. Victor, I said, pausing. Yeah. Thanks. He looked up from his console, surprised for half a second, then nodded once. Anytime. The door closed behind me. The corridor lights guided me toward the outer airlock. I walked in silence for a while, listening to the soft rhythm of the station's internal systems. It was cleaner than most planets I'd been on. Too quiet sometimes, but that was fine. At the end of the hall, I stopped at the viewing window. Earth filled half the frame, blue and white and alive. The station's reflection floated across the glass like a faint ghost, the lights from the hall tracing lines along the metal. For a brief moment, I thought about the difference between destruction and creation not as an idea, but as a measurement. What was built stayed if you maintained it. What was destroyed stayed gone until something replaced it. Both sides were simple once you understood the rhythm. I had one side mastered. The other could wait. The COMM clicked once again. Cyborg's voice came through, light this time. Hey, one last thing. What? I said. Clark said next week's synchronization run is going to need a test subject for the energy relay grid, he said. Guess who volunteered you? I smiled. Tell him I'm flattered. I will, he said. Try not to melt the satellites. No promises, I said, and stepped into the airlock. The door sealed behind me. The outer hatch opened with a soft hiss, and space stretched out in every direction. I floated there for a second, letting my eyes adjust to the glare of sunlight hitting the watchtower's hull. Then I pushed off gently, drifting away from the station until the full curve of Earth came into view beneath me. The station stayed steady in orbit above the blue horizon. The COMM went silent again. The only sound left was my own breathing. I turned toward the planet and angled downward. Time to go back. Chapter 20, The Stone Arrives. The watchtower's airlock closed behind me. The Earth filled the window like a promise, blew over the Pacific. I shifted my angle to drop into atmosphere when the COMM clicked once, sharp and short. Batman's voice came through, low and clear. Priority alert. Darkseid has entered Earth space. Boom tubes opening in Metropolis, Gateway, and a site 100 miles off the Pacific coast. I'm informing the others. I need you on dark side now. I turned on instinct. Location. Metropolis outskirts, he said immediately. Industrial district, South Rail Yards. The tube is large. He stepped through personally. Superman is rerouting satellites. Wonder Woman is inbound from DC. Hal is suiting up. Flash is clearing civilians. You keep him occupied. Do not let him walk into the city. Copy, I said. I'll hold him. Batman added one more line. Don't underestimate the Omega effect. Wouldn't dream of it, I said. I fell into Earth's air in a straight line, body tight, aura quiet. The wind burned against my face for a second, then shaped around me. Clouds broke and the skyline rose. I saw Metropolis's towers to the north, bright even under grey weather. The rail yards spread out to the south, steel tracks and stacked containers. The boom tube cut the sky in half. It was a wide, ugly hole in space. Parademons spilled from it in fast, trained waves. The ground had already cracked in a circle around the tube. Workers ran in every direction. A half-loaded crane hung mid-swing, and the container it held tilted dangerously. I put myself between the tube and the city and landed hard enough to announce it. Parademons banked toward me without hesitation. I lifted one hand, palm open, and released a flat, controlled wave that smashed the nearest 10 out of the air without shredding them. They hit the ground, armor dented, wings disabled. The ones behind them adjusted. Oracle to field, Batman's filtered voice came through the League band. First responders pulled back to perimeter. City blocks 3 through 7 evacuated. The tube is still widening. On it, I said. I saw the crane start to drop the container. I sliced the tension line with a thin cut of key, softened the box's fall with a pressure cushion, and nudged it onto a clear patch of concrete. It slid and stopped. The crane operator sat frozen in his cab. I pointed at the exit ladder. He got the message and slid down in jerky, shaking movements. Another wave of parademons angled for me. I punched through the front 3 with quick bursts and blew the others sideways in a clean arc to keep them from the road. A bus made a hard turn 2 blocks over. Flash's red streak threaded inside and out of it twice and then disappeared down the next street. The bus coasted empty into a safe stop and tapped the curb. Thanks, Barry's voice said, breath quick. He's huge. I didn't answer. The boom tube's hum changed. Darkseid stepped through. He was massive, square, and slow in a way that meant nothing weak. Grey skin, ridged brow, hand behind his back, the other at his side. His eyes tracked everything and decided nothing was worth a second look. His presence made the ground vibrate in small, steady pulses. He stopped at the edge of the tube and looked at me first. He said nothing for a moment. Then his voice carried in a low, even line. You are the variable. I didn't look away. I get that a lot. This world is not for you, he said. Disagree, I said. He blinked once. His gaze lowered a fraction, taking in the faint violet line along my arms that I let show on purpose. An energy I have not catalogued. Feel free to learn, I said. Class starts now. He moved one finger. The Omega symbol lit in his eyes and then came for me in 2 thin, red lines that cut the air without sound. I raised my forearm and set a field at an angle. The beams hit, turned, and chased me. I moved and let them chase, then folded the field again and made the beams intersect each other. They blinked out, then snapped back and came for me from the other side. I slid left, cut a thin notch in space with destruction key, and fed one beam into it. It vanished completely. The other grazed my shoulder. Pain flared. It was clean and bright. I grinned. Okay. That bites. Report, Batman said in my ear. Omega beams track well. One cut, one graze, I said. I'm fine. Keep it that way, he said. Satellite feed confirms 3 tubes. 2 are Parademan only. This one is the point. Diana is 3 minutes out. Clark is at 90 seconds at top speed. Hal, 1:30. Jayon is already monitoring psychic noise. He can't break through the field around Darkseid. Copy, I said. Darkseid lowered his hand. Kneel. Hard pass, I said, and moved before another beam. I closed the distance in a snap and drove a heavy straight into his chest. The sound hit a second later. He slid one step back, then another. The concrete under his feet cracked in square patches. He did not make a sound. I followed with a knee and an elbow. He took both and returned a short hook that would have punched through steel. I caught it. The bones in my hand complained, then stopped complaining. He rotated his wrist and tried to crush my fingers. I let him try, then opened mine and shoved back. The push threw him 3 meters. He stayed upright. His boots drew 2 thick lines in the concrete. He lifted his chin. You can be taught. Don't count on it, I said, but my hands were steady because the burn in my shoulder had already faded, and my pulse was even. Parademons got brave again. I didn't look at them. A ring wall of green slammed down between the wave and the nearest street. Hal's voice sounded clean and loud. I've got the bugs. You take the big one. On it, I said. Darkseid flicked his eyes, and the Omega beam snapped at Hal's wall. Hal beefed the construct and cursed under his breath. He's spicier today. Language, I said. Shut up and punch, Hal said, laughing anyway. I did. I crossed the ground in one step and smashed my palm into Darkseid's ribs with a point-blank pulse that hammered him off his feet. He slid and hit a stack of shipping containers that crushed and folded around him. He stood up from the mess, dust sliding off him, not a mark on his skin. He looked bored. I lifted my hand and formed a tight sphere of destruction key in the size of a grapefruit. I aimed it at his shoulder and fired. It hit and ate a shallow bowl out of the stone-like flesh, then stopped. The wound filled in with a dark light that I recognized only as strength and simple refusal. He looked at the then empty patch and then at me. Interesting. Same, I said. He moved faster. His right hand came up in a short, ugly arc. I stepped through it, put my forearm on his bicep, and turned the strike past my face. His other hand came for my gut. I took it on my hip and bounced it off with a small twist. He changed angles twice without telegraphing. His foot stomped where mine had been a breath earlier. The ground sank 6 inches. He leaned forward. You will break. You can try, I said. Omega beams again, 2 from angles that didn't make physical sense. I set my field to a hard, matte barrier for a split second and let the beams eat the surface layer I built for them. The layer cooked off and went dark. I replaced it before it failed and shoved the beams away. They curved back toward me and then split on their own to try to flank. I smothered one with a pocket of null key, which I almost never used, and cut the other with a line so thin it was invisible. It shrieked in my ear without making sound and stopped. Superman's voice hit my comm like clean air. 10 seconds. Darkseid's head tilted a fraction. He had heard him even if he wasn't on the line. Bring him up, Batman said. Get him away from the yards. Copy, I said. I kicked Darkseid in the chest hard enough to make him leave the ground whether he wanted to or not. He dropped back down a foot later and looked irritated. I didn't wait for a second opinion. I stepped under his guard and picked him up by the belt and shoulder and pushed him straight up into the sky. He fired Omega beams point blank into my face. I blocked with pure ki, no destruction, and felt the heat in my teeth. I pushed harder and didn't give him the angle he wanted. We cleared the rooftops in a long, dirty line of air. I took us higher, out over the river, away from glass and traffic. Superman slammed into Darkseid from the side with a sound like a building falling. Darkseid rolled through space, stopped dead, and came right back at me, ignoring the Man of Steel like gravity. He hit my ribs with a backhand. It would have shattered most things. I answered with a straight to the jaw that turned his head a clean 20 degrees. He looked back at me like I had tapped him with a cushion. "Good morning," Superman said, appearing at my side, eyes narrowed but calm. "You all right?" "I'm happy," I said. "Of course you are," he said dryly. Diana's 30 seconds out. Hal is holding the line. Flash cleared 6 blocks. Cyborg is hijacking boom tube coordinates to slow reinforcements. Darkseid extended his hand. The air around us pressed on my face like a palm. It was the Omega effect turned into simple pressure. I pushed against it with my own and won, but only by not blinking. He said, "This world is a problem. I remove problems." I smiled a little. "I'm a full-time complication." He fired again. The beams came in hard lines that bent around me when they didn't hit. One split for Superman. Clark cut it with his heat vision by meeting it in midair and tipping it into empty sky. The beam followed the heat for a moment and then corrected. He dodged it without jerking. He had done this before. "I'll draw him up," Superman said. "You keep him aimed away from people." "Done," I said. We climbed again together, pushing Darkseid with us by blunt force and insistence. The cloud line broke. The air got thin and cold, then cleared into almost space. The curve of the Earth sat beneath us. I anchored our fight against the pull of the world by making my own small platform under my feet, invisible and hard. Darkseid fired again. The beams chased me in 2 perfect curls. I let them chase, then snapped both into my palms and squeezed until the light itself felt like it had edges. It hurt. I liked it. I shoved both beams sideways into blank air and let them fly into nothing. Diana's voice came through the channel, steady. "I have him." She rose through the thin air, shield up, sword drawn. The sunlight made the gold bright. She didn't look at me first. She looked only at Darkseid. He looked at her and, for the first time, adjusted his stance a fraction like he cared about the result. "Angle," she said. "North-northwest," Superman said automatically, and moved to put his body exactly where it needed to be. Darkseid moved a finger. The beams came in a star path at all 3 of us. I built a wall over Superman without asking for permission, took my own on my shoulder again, and watched Diana cut hers with the edge of her shield in a smooth line that looked like she had practiced it every day for the last 10 years. She had. The pieces snapped back at her like dogs. She'd planned for it. The shield took them again without complaint. She crashed into Darkseid's center a beat later. Her shield hit his chest. The impact rung through my body even from a few meters away. He didn't fly back. She didn't either. She set her feet and pushed. He answered and pushed her off. She landed on the same invisible platform I was using and didn't sag at the knees at all. "You're in a good mood," she remarked without looking over. "Breakfast," I said. Superman cut in, a little amused despite himself. "Focus." I stepped back into Darkseid's space and hammered him with measured shots to keep him looking at me. He ate them with that steady look and then finally responded with his own fists. He was good. He moved like he weighed a building and still turned on a simple point. We traded clean blows and nothing fancy for 10 seconds. I found a rhythm I liked and started raising my output a little with each trade. He noticed. The left side of his mouth tightened 1 millimeter. He grabbed my wrist and tried to crush it again. I let him think he had it for half a second, then rolled my elbow and broke his grip without breaking his fingers. Respect, not mercy. Down below, Hal's voice came in short bursts, containment perimeter holding. Parademons thinning. Cyborg, your shunt is nice. That was clean. Cyborg replied in that casual tone he used when his hands were moving fast. Mother box interference cut by 8%. Keep them busy. Flash chimed in, breathless but happy. Metropolis South blocks are clear. Midtown glass mostly fine. I'm heading to Gateway and then coming back. Do it, Batman said. Jayon, stay on signal duty. Aquaman. Arthur's voice answered like surf. Atlantis is ready. I'll hit the west tube and drop it into deep water. Good, Batman said. Main unit, keep Darkseid away from population centers. He wants ground. Do not let him have it. Darkseid's face didn't change. He did not look annoyed. He just did the next thing on his internal list. He stomped on empty air. Space ripple cracked in a way that wasn't sound. My platform shuddered. The ring of air around us pressed in hard. He tried to force us all downward. Superman took that on his shoulders and undid it like a man lifting a car. I matched him and pushed back. Diana used the opening. The lasso flicked and wrapped one of Darkseid's wrists. She yanked. He moved because she told him to move. He fired beams at her in reflex. I took a step to the side and got between the beam and her without being dramatic about it. It hit my field and burned like a welder on full power. I pulled it toward me and let it off in a safe curve. It vanished into the high air and went nowhere. He let her pull his wrist and then stood exactly where he wanted to stand a second later, the lasso tied around stone. She pulled harder. He ignored the pain and the logic and stood. That was who he was. We went again. He leaned forward, and the gravity field spiked. The air wanted to turn to concrete. I set a layer between us that did not care about gravity and made the space I stood in obey me, not him. I walked forward through his field and put my hand on his chest. He did the same to me. Our palms met, and it was a simple thing like one man pushing another across a line in a gym. It wasn't simple at all. I started to smile without meaning to. He saw that and, for the first time, looked truly at me as if I were worth his attention. You are not of this place. Debatable, I said. I live here. He shot the beams again at point-blank range. I was ready. I caught both in my thumbs and first fingers and tried something new. I pushed destruction key into the left beam only, not to erase, but to break the beam's coherence for a fraction of a second. It staggered and came back worse. It tried to reform and met a different shape that wasn't in its list. It sizzled in a way that wasn't sound. The right beam found my left shoulder and bit me again. I hissed through my teeth and dropped my chin once. It hurt less than the first time. Adaptation worked even when I didn't think about it. Superman drifted in closer, ready to hit hard. You holding? I'm fine, I said. Then we push him higher, he said. We keep the ground safe. Agreed, Diana said. We did that. We moved him up another 3,000 meters. The city became a model, neat and small. The clouds broke again, then thinned. The light changed. He kept firing. We kept meeting it, cutting it, folding it back into empty air. He learned our timings and tried to alter his. We stopped caring about his timing and just made ours right. A green net wrapped the void behind him. Hal had floated up while we were locked. He had built a deep, soft net designed to catch without slicing. Just in case, he said. Good, Superman said. Darkseid turned a fraction. The beams cut the net apart in 1 second. Hal rebuilt it. He did not look upset. He built it better. I dropped my center of mass lower and sent 3 short punches into Darkseid's abdomen. They landed. He gave me nothing for free. He answered with one short elbow that would have dislocated anything it wanted. I let it hit my arm, rode the line, and gave the joint a tiny tilt. My tissue took the force and moved it. My bones stayed where I put them. He grunted for the first time, a small acknowledgement. Clark, Batman said, very calm. Apocalypse signals spiking. We can expect a second wave within 5 minutes. Cyborg, prepare for a mother box surge. Jayon, warn Diana if their psychic guard shifts. Everyone else, lock your zones. Understood, Superman said. Copy, Cyborg said. On it, Jayon said. Darkseid glanced down once, not at the city, but at the rails, at the road lines, at the order of it. He saw a thing he wanted and couldn't have as long as we were in the way. He lifted both hands. His knuckles cracked as if he cared about joints. He put them down again, and the world obeyed him less than it obeyed me. He spoke again, simple as a mark on paper. Kneel. Or witness ruin. Diana answered with her own simple thing. No. Superman didn't bother to speak. He lunged in and hit Darkseid across the jaw with a clean, honest hook. It was a perfect punch, efficient and true. It moved Darkseid's head 2 inches. That was enough to let me step into the line I wanted. I put my palm on Darkseid's cheekbone and pushed a precise pulse into a plane just wide enough to tilt his body right. It turned him into Diana's shield. She drove the rim into his collarbone with a controlled blow meant to break the plate there. If he had been a man, it would have shattered. It didn't. He reset, calm. He learned the combo and made it cost me more the next time I tried. He was quick. I shaped a bigger sphere in my palm, smaller than a basketball, larger than a grape. It was destruction key trimmed of excess, a clean edge with no fray. I pressed it into the space in front of his chest, not touching him yet, and let him feel the potential. He looked at it like a craftsman looks at a tool he didn't make. I pressed it into him a millimeter. The skin rippled like stone hit with heat. He saturate countered with raw omega force. The sphere skittered and lost bite. I clicked my tongue without meaning to and erased it. That was not the right approach. He had too much weight in the math. Don't tear space, Superman said without looking at me. I'm not, I said. You were thinking about it, he said. Always, I said. Save it, Batman said in my ear before Clark could answer. We need time. That's all. Hold him here. The rest will fall in line. The report line filled with Hal again, then Cyborg, then Flash, then Aquaman. Gates went down. Streets stayed empty. Drones fell into the river. The world did its part. Darkseid tried a new angle. He opened a boom tube behind me and aimed the edge like a blade. I felt the space warp and cut it closed with my hand before it ate my shoulder off by accident. He watched that without annoyance. He simply did it again 3 feet to the left. I cut that too. He spun one under my feet. I stepped off it and stomped the rim until it snapped shut and spat sparks. Diana's lasso wrapped his other wrist. He had one arm in gold and one arm free. He didn't like it or dislike it. He just kept moving. He pulled her off balance with a turn of his torso. She didn't trip. She used the pull to circle his body, came around behind him, and locked his elbow with a simple line. He flexed. She held. The lasso glowed brighter. He snarled once in a tone that sounded like deep rock shifting. That was the whole emotion. Superman's breath sounded steady to my ear even at this intensity. He caught my glance and flicked his eyes toward the east. I understood. Gotham Zone had gone quiet. That meant Batman had solved his end. He was ahead of his own plan by 30 seconds. Good. I hit Darkseid's knee 3 times in fast taps. It did nothing, then made him set his stance wider. I liked that stance. It kept him grounded in a way that made my next angle easier to read. I feinted at his midline, then drove a pulse into the air next to his ear. It was a tiny, negative space shove. It made no noise. It made him blink. I took that blink and put my knuckles in the space he vacated. He ate the hit with a small nod. He said, "I will adapt." I shrugged. "So will I." His answer was the beams again, but this time they came from behind his head, not his eyes. They punched toward me from nowhere. I smiled even while I blocked because that was new and I liked new. I folded them into each other and then fed the knot into empty sky. It popped in quiet. My shoulder hurt less each time I took one on the field. Good. Status, Batman said. Holding, Superman said. Holding, Diana said. Holding, I said, and stepped forward again. Chapter 21, Orbit Hold. The air up here was thin and sharp. The city lay small under us. The rail yards were a grid. The river cut a clean line. The boom tube sat over the tracks with a steady pulse. Darkseid stood on the platform of my energy with his hands loose at his sides and his eyes looking through me. The beams came without a blink. They split from his eyes and dropped into the structure under our feet. The platform trembled and went soft. My field corroded along the seam with a hiss I felt in my teeth. I killed it before it collapsed and kicked off clean. Platform compromised, I said into the COMM. I see it, Superman answered, already moving. Darkseid didn't wait for a second platform. He aimed the next pair low and drove us down. I took them with a quick cross and dumped them into empty air, but they clipped the pressure around us and destabilized everything again. Take it up, Batman said. His voice stayed even. Diana and Hal will hold the perimeter. Keep him off the ground. Copy, I said. Darkseid fired again to keep me honest. I shifted one hand and gave his beam a thin path to follow that went nowhere near the streets. The beam chased my angle, then died. He didn't look frustrated. He didn't change his breathing. He simply stepped forward, hit my guard with a short hook, and tried to turn my chin to the river. I blocked it with my forearm and felt the bone complain. My key covered the strain and made the bone forget. I aimed 2 quick shots at the base of his neck. He absorbed them without folding and dragged his knuckles at my ribs. Superman crossed the distance in a clean line and cut that punch off with a heavy shoulder. Darkseid didn't flinch from the hit. He let the force slide off his torso and reset his center. Up, Superman said, and rose first. I went with him, fast enough to force Darkseid to choose who to follow. He chose both. The beams tracked me. His hands went for Clark. I cut the beams with one palm and forced them into each other until they burned out. Superman took the grip and broke it with simple strength, pushing Darkseid higher with a straight shot to the jaw. We cleared the cloud layer. The wind left. The cold settled in along the skin in a narrow line. I put a thin seal over my nose and mouth to keep the air where I wanted it. Darkseid didn't need the help. He followed on raw force alone, a heavy presence obeyed by the world because he expected it. Below, Diana's voice came through, steady and grounded. Parademon drop on 12th and Behringer. I have them. Lantern Jordan here, Hal said, breathing fast but calm. Construct canopy over Midtown. I'm sweeping roof to roof. Bugs are down by 2/3. Cyborg, I need a street lamp list before they short. Pushing the grid to you now, Cyborg replied. I'm intercepting mother box pings at the tube. You've got 15 seconds before the next dump. Understood, Hal said. Flash cut in with bright speed. Berenger cleared. I'm moving to the river path. Keep throwing them in one direction. Focus on evacuation, Batman said. Do not chase. Hold the lines. The sky thinned and turned black. The blue curve below widened. The sound vanished. The COMM kept talking in my ear with no delay. Darkseid reached for my throat. I slipped under his hand and hit him in the ribs with a short, tight pulse. He dipped half an inch, then squared his shoulders and answered with a flat palm that tried to stop my heart. My chest took the hit and kept working. I smiled without showing teeth. He saw it and fired the beams again at the spot where my smile had been. I didn't give him the line. I stepped to the right, caught one beam between thumb and palm, and rotated my wrist clockwise an inch. The beam's coherence slipped a fraction. It fought my grip and tried to cut around my hand. I tightened the key at the edge and denied it that option. It shook, stuttered, and then restabilized. The other beam hit my shoulder and burned ugly for 2 beats. I let the pain exist and didn't react to it beyond a small breath. I grabbed the second beam with my left hand and pulled both lines apart until they snapped off of each other. Superman appeared at Darkseid's side and drove him higher with a clean rising combination. His punches were short enough to prevent overextension. He didn't waste motion. Darkseid absorbed both and tried to pull Clark in with a gravity field. I felt the pull in my fingers despite the distance. Superman held steady with the same posture he used when he pulled an aircraft back into the air above water. Simple application of power. No strain in his face. Hold him here, Batman said. I want him off the cities. Already holding, Superman said. Diana's voice came again. I'm at the rail line. Hal, divert left. The crane is unstable. Got it, Hal said. Net up. I saw the emerald net flash over the city in the corner of my view and then went back to the only thing that mattered, keep Darkseid aimed at nothing. He extended one hand and opened a boom tube in the vacuum 3 meters to my left. Its edges wobbled because space here did not like it. He didn't care. He slashed with the tube like a blade. I cut the seam with a precise line of destruction key and shut it. He opened another behind Clark. Superman turned his head and burned the rim with heat vision until it desynced and collapsed. Darkseid tried 2 at once. I killed one, Clark killed the other. The third appeared directly above Diana on the ground. Hal slammed a plate over it and held. The tube bucked under his construct and flickered. Cyborg's voice broke in with urgency. I'm feeding a false lock to the box. It should misalign within 3, 2 now. The tube under Hal's plate imploded with a dull flash. Hal laughed once into the channel. You're a lifesaver. Keep your head down, Cyborg said. I'm busy. Darkseid shifted tactics without pause. He closed on me with short, hard steps that ignored the lack of ground. His fist met my forearm. The shock traveled up my arm and tried to find the inside of my elbow. I gave it nothing to grip. I answered with a palm to his chest that sent him back a shoulder width. Superman slid in on the other side with a hook that turned Darkseid's jaw half the distance the earlier one had. Diana couldn't follow up because she was still on the ground. Fine. We worked as 2. He reached for Clark's neck. Clark caught the wrist and rolled it into a lock that would put a human on their knees. Darkseid didn't go down. He simply rotated his forearm a degree against the pressure and broke the hold with strength and leverage. We traded again. Elbow to forearm. Knee to hip. Palm to cheekbone. Omega beams to field. Heat vision to beam. The pattern repeated with small changes each time as he learned us and we learned him. Jaeon's voice came through the line, level and quiet. His mind is shrouded. The field around him blocks direct contact. I can only relay positions. Do that, Batman said. I will, Jaeon answered. Darkseid dropped his center of mass a hair. I adjusted mine to match. He dropped it again, then drove a short uppercut toward my solar plexus. I turned my hip into the shot and bled off the force. He followed with a forearm to my clavicle. I cut the last inch off the angle and let it glance. He looked pleased for a fraction at seeing something interesting and then looked bored again. Superman came in from high right and hit Darkseid across the face with an open palm that shoved him a meter. I took the opening and put a pulse into Darkseid's ear again, stronger this time. He blinked. The blink lasted exactly as long as the first one. He didn't give me more. He said, flat, over the distance. Pointless. I shook my head once. Productive. He fired the beams again. They went around me, then around Superman, then bent and met at our shoulders. He had adapted again. I cut both lines with a cross of destruction key before they bit. The cuts left a taste in the air that wasn't air. It faded. Orbit is clear, Superman said. No debris fields in our path. Good, Batman said. Keep pushing him outward if you can. We did that. We moved the fight another 2,000 meters away from the atmosphere. The curvature widened. The city was a thing far below. The ocean was a simple spread. The boom tube above the rail yard looked small and then smaller. Every time Darkseid tried to aim down, we blocked, turned, or redirected. Every time he tried to step closer to the ground, we pushed him back. He threw his palm out and released a radial burst of Omega power. It came off him in a sphere and tried to eat the space around him. I set a shell around the sphere and turned its skin so it only wanted to expand outward and away from the planet. The burst stretched, then ripped itself apart into harmless spread. Bits of it hit my field and flickered. Superman stood to my right with no flinch and watched the whole thing as if he were measuring it with an internal ruler. Thanks, he said quietly. Always, I said. Below, Hal grunted into the line. He just switched drops to armored elites. I need 2 seconds. Diana answered in a tone that was almost warm. You get 1. He laughed, strained and happy. That's more than usual. The ground channel filled with clean sounds, metal hitting metal, shield on armor, ring edges scraping parademon blades, the snap of air when Flash took a turn at speed. No one yelled. No one complained. They worked. Darkseid opened another boom tube behind my back and tried to pull me into it with a gravity sink. I anchored my center with key and did not move. I set my palm flat and shut the tube by pressing its edges together until they gave up the shape and closed. Darkseid's eyes narrowed a millimeter. He stepped in and threw a straight punch that would break a mountain. I caught it and didn't break. My hand hurt. My smile stayed. Superman hit him again. Darkseid took it and then swung at Clark's ribs with both hands in a flat slam. Clark ate it with a short grunt, countered with a quick knee, and then backed half a step to reset the rhythm. We didn't try to be clever. We tried to be consistent. It worked. The COMM clicked with a new tone. Aquaman's voice came through with controlled effort. West tube is under the surface. My guard is binding it with cable. Cyborg, cut the lock. On it, Cyborg said. I need 4 seconds. You have 3, Batman said. I'll take 3, Cyborg answered, fingers loud on metal in the background. The sky around us changed color again as the sun angle shifted. Darkseid didn't care about the light. He cared about reach. He tried to go down again. I blocked. He tried to go forward. Superman planted both feet in empty space and took the push with his entire body. Darkseid tried the beams again, this time sending them in tight arcs that were harder to grab. I stepped sideways and let them miss, then caught both with a pair of pinches and squeezed until they flickered off. The smaller burns on my fingers healed faster. Adaptation continued to pay out. "Your body is efficient," Darkseid said. He said it as an observation, not a compliment. I nodded. "Yours is too." He didn't argue. He chose then to compress space around his fist and throw a slow punch that ignored everything but force. It crossed the distance clean. I slipped my head off the line and let the forearm graze my shoulder. He followed with a palm at my throat. I bent my neck out of range and put a thumb in the tendon at his wrist for no reason beyond habit. He brushed my hand away without effort and aimed a beam at my hip. Superman cut it with a thermal line. It burned out. Darkseid set his feet wider and gave us nothing. "Status," Batman said. "Metropolis line is secure," Diana said. No noise behind her voice. Just the words and the simple fact that they were true. "Gateway perimeter stable," Flash said, "breath even now." "I'm with Hal for 5 seconds. We're clear after that." "Under the bay tube is closed," Aquaman said. "We are clear." "Good," Batman said. "Main unit, keep Darkseid focused on you. I'm finalizing a coordinate scrambler with Cyborg. Jayon will give the mark. We'll need 10 seconds of locked position." "Understood," Superman said. "Tell me when," I said. "Not yet," Batman said. "He's still adjusting. I need him steady." Darkseid did not like the phrase locked position even from our side. He tried to spike the field under us and drop us back to the ground by brute pull. I spread my fingers and countered the pull with equal force. He shrugged. He dropped the pull. He threw a hook to my jaw. I took it on the cheek and let my head turn an inch. It bought me a line. I used it. I hit him in the same spot with my palm and gave it a small pulse. He took it and blinked a fraction. Superman used my pulse to set his next hit a little deeper. The punch landed with a straight thud against Darkseid's jawline. Darkseid moved 1 centimeter and reset again. We stayed in this pattern for long minutes. The COMM stayed busy with information. Hal talked in bursts about constructs and angles. Diana gave short reports that meant handled and nothing else. Flash's voice moved when he did and went quiet when he stopped. Cyborg's hands did not stop. The station stayed up and watching. The city under us did not break. Darkseid changed his handling of the beams again. He split them into 6 lines and made them curve in slow waves. I made a spread of thin null layers and set them at specific distances so the beams had to bend at wrong angles. He didn't like the feel of that solution and stopped using that branch of the Omega tree. He went back to clean lines, which I preferred. He spoke again without raising his voice. "You delay the inevitable." "That's my job," I said. "I'm good at it." Superman didn't answer the words. He climbed and dragged Darkseid with him on his forearm. Darkseid let Clark think the grip held for a second, then broke it with a short jerk and fired a beam at my feet. I moved and didn't leave him a target. He fired at Clark's back. Clark tilted and it wasted into nothing. The line clicked. Jayon's tone sharpened. "Now. 10 seconds. Move him 3 degrees east," Batman said. "Hold that angle." "I have it," Superman said. We shifted as one. I took Darkseid's lead shoulder with my left hand and put weight on it. Superman took his right side and did the same. Darkseid tried to break both grips. I let mine go before he pulled, reset, and took the shoulder again a half-inch higher. He took the motion and made it fail with strength. I flowed with that failure and turned it into another set. He broke that too. I didn't care. The angle held. The numbers mattered, not the look. 5 seconds, Jayon said. Darkseid cut the distance with a knee. I deflected with my thigh and kept my balance. The knee ached and then stopped aching. I used my next breath to keep the key steady and thin in my fingers. The angle stayed. 3, Jaeon said. Darkseid tried to spin. Superman pushed a hand to his sternum and held him on that plane with a simple press. It wasn't force. It was placement. Darkseid stopped trying to spin. Now, Batman said. Cyborg. Cyborg's voice cut clean and fast. Scrambler live. The space around Darkseid shimmered in my vision. The channel felt a hum. He seemed to slow for half a beat as the boom tube coordinates drifted from their own standard. His eyes flared ugly. He fired at the point the hum came from. The beam hit nothing in our space. The scrambler absorbed it and bled it into a dead drop. Darkseid fired again. The second beam ate itself trying to correct for a lock that didn't exist. He stopped firing. He looked at me. I looked back, calm and content. Again, Batman said. We can repeat that in 30 seconds. Copy, Cyborg said. Darkseid lowered his chin. He was not angry. He was attentive in a way he hadn't been at the start. He reached for my head. I put my forearm into his wrist. He pressed. I kept the line. Superman stepped in and drove him back half a meter. The COMM popped with Hal's voice again. City is holding. Bugs are done. I'm ready to go high if you need me. No, Batman said at once. Stay on the ground. We can't leave gaps. Copy, Hal said, no argument in it. Diana cut in. I'm free to move if the line holds. Hold it, Batman said. We need stability more than bodies up there. Understood, she said. Darkseid went to a full burst again. I set my shell and pushed it outward toward nothing. Superman reinforced the far side with his own field. The burst spread thin and did not touch the air below. Again, Batman said. Cyborg. Cooldown complete, Cyborg said. Scrambler ready. We locked the angle one more time. Jaeon counted. We held. The field went live. Darkseid fired through the scramble and hit his own redirection. He stopped. He lifted his hands and closed them into fists. He tried to pull us both forward with a gravity surge focused on our centers. Clark took it and didn't slip. I took it and felt my knees want to bend because the force aimed at that hinge. I straightened the joint and denied the request. My shoulder still burned from the earlier graze. I liked the feeling. It kept me honest. We stayed without moving. He said, enough. No, Superman said. Darkseid took the refusal in the same tone he took everything. He went back to work. We traded clean, precise strikes for another minute. He did not slow. Neither did we. The city stayed quiet in our ears. Cyborg came in again. Third cycle ready in 20. Do it, Batman said. The more we disrupt his coordinates, the less stable his ground support becomes. Then we will make it 4, I said. Make it 5 if you can, Batman said. I like margin. Superman almost laughed, then didn't. He can do 5. Of course he can, Hal said. Diana's voice held a small lift that she did not decorate. He will. Darkseid stepped in to take that away. I let him touch my forearms and then took it back. He fired the beams at my knee. I kicked the beam out of line without strain and threw it up into a dead patch of sky. He answered with a palm to my chest that found nothing soft to kill. I replied with a soft press to his throat. It did not cut. It did enough to make him move his neck. Superman put a short uppercut into the spot my press opened. The hit landed. Darkseid's head moved. He reset. Ready, Cyborg said. Do it, Batman said. We locked the position for the third time. Jaeon counted in a clean tone down to 0. The scrambler hit. Darkseid's eyes went black for a blink as the Omega Matrix lost a minor lock and refreshed. He searched with raw will. The scrambler output spiked and then stabilized. I can push it one more cycle before I risk a burn, Cyborg said. Then prepare it, Batman said. We kept him where he needed to be. The world stayed whole under us. Darkseid held my gaze for a full second. You are not from here. I didn't give him that line. I fight here. He lifted his hand. The beams came again, cleaner than any previous. I didn't try a trick. I put my forearms up and took them with a hard barrier trimmed to a simple function. They chewed at the surface for 2 beats and died. He stepped after them with a shoulder. I took the shoulder and walked him a foot. Superman set his hands under Darkseid's sternum and pushed with one burst. Darkseid retreated 1 meter without looking like he had retreated. The line clicked once. Batman's voice was still steady. We're almost through. Stay on him. We stayed. Chapter 22, Omega Lance Hold. The sky above the city had turned flat and black. The curve of Earth sat under us, steady and bright. The COMM stayed clear. Superman hovered 2 meters off my right shoulder, fists tight, breath even. Darkseid faced us without moving his feet. The glow in his eyes changed. The air in front of him bent in a clean line. Batman's voice cut through, calm and clipped. He's compressing. This will be sustained. I saw the shift in the beam before it fired. The light narrowed into one line that did not wobble. It aimed past me toward Metropolis and locked on a vector that made my jaw tighten. Angle 3-2, Cyborg said quickly. If it fires on that line, it hits the South Tower grid in 8 seconds. Take the shot, Batman said. Redirect upward. I moved into the line and raised both forearms with a hard field flush against the skin. The Omega Lance hit. The world inside my bones rang. Heat climbed through the barrier into muscle, then into joint, steady and blunt. I leaned into it a half step and slowed it without letting it bulge around my sides. Hold, Batman said evenly. Working, I said through my teeth. I shifted the barrier 2 layers deep. The outer shell took the first bite, neutral and broad. The inner layer rode close to my skin and cut the beam's coherence at the edge by a fraction without trying to erase it fully. The lance pushed against the cut. It fought to stay straight. It had a memory. It tried to dig through the same spot over and over. I shifted pressure a millimeter left, then a millimeter right, and kept it from drilling. Superman slid in next to me without bumping my shoulder. He pressed both palms toward Darkseid's face to block the aim with body position. The beam stayed on me anyway, tracking the city line through my chest. Vector is locked, Jaeon said on the line. He is forcing the angle from intent. Break his grip, Batman said. Do not let it touch the ground. Superman surged forward and jammed his forearm under Darkseid's chin. Darkseid did not flinch. The beam grew brighter. The push increased. My arms shook for 3 beats, then settled as my ki adjusted and thickened along the joint lines. The heat in my forearms lifted, then leveled. My palms felt raw and then calmed. Pain pulled and then flattened. I breathed out in a slow line and kept it steady. I bent the barrier by degrees, shaped it into a shallow ramp. The beam pressed against the ramp and refused to turn for a second, then gave ground a fraction. I pushed the slope up 1 more degree. The lance followed, stiff and resistant, then shifted an inch upward. I took the inch and aimed it higher. The line climbed. Up 2 more, Batman said. Then lock. On it, I said. Darkseid stepped into us with a heavy shoulder. He didn't try to break my guard. He tried to push me out of the way. Superman took the shoulder with his chest and gave him a clean, short hook in return. The punch did not change the beam. It did make Darkseid blink half a beat. I used that blink. I lifted my forearms and angled the field higher. The lance moved up. It left the city line and scraped across empty space. Cyborg's voice came immediately. Clear corridor at Year 10. No satellites. No debris. You can send it. I bent the ramp sharper and narrowed the field at the edges so the beam would not spill around and graze my ribs. It tried to, then lost that line and centered on the new path. The lance cut toward empty sky. The pull on my arms eased a fraction. Heat bled off my barrier into nothing. I stepped forward to keep the bend tight. Superman pressed closer to Darkseid and hit him again. Stay on me. Darkseid grabbed for Superman's forearm with one hand without changing his face. Superman broke the grab with a clean roll and clawed for Darkseid's wrist. They locked briefly, strength against strength. Darkseid held the beam steady while resisting a grip that would have immobilized a battleship. I kept the ramp and fed the lance harmlessly into space. Status, Batman said. Beam off the city, Superman said. Holding, I said. Diana's voice came through the line from the ground. Perimeter stable. Hal and I have the last drop contained. Flash is cycling blocks 4 and 5. No civilians in the rail zone. Cyborg, Batman said, keep the scrambler hot. Ready on your mark, Cyborg said, fingers loud on his console. Darkseid did not stop pushing. The lance tried to pulse. I pressed harder and held the slope. My arms shook again for a second. I stabilized. My shoulders burned and then settled. The beam wanted to impress itself onto the field by force and muscle through. I kept altering the exact angle of incidence in tiny offsets so it could not learn one pattern. You're enjoying this, Superman said without looking over. A little, I said. He finally brought a toy. Superman exhaled once with the smallest hint of humor. Focus. I am focused, I said, smiling. Darkseid's eyes narrowed. The lance brightened twice. The push gained weight. My elbows tried to fold. I locked them and bent my knees by a centimeter to sit into the pressure. The beam climbed the ramp further. I set the angle harder. The line of light moved into clean space. Clear, Cyborg said. No assets in that line for 800 kilometers. Good, Batman said. Darkseid changed hands mid-beam. His left hand tightened into a fist at his side. A gravity surge hit my ankles at the same time the lance flared again. He tried to sweep my feet while forcing my arms down. I flexed my toes, glued my stance with a thin layer of ki along the soles, and rode the surge until it broke. Superman saw both motions and slammed his shoulder into Darkseid's sternum to disrupt timing. Darkseid took the contact and pushed him off with a hard palm, then kept his aim without blinking. Jayon, Batman said, tell me if the Omega Matrix shifts. It is stable, Jayon said. He has chosen this method. Then we isolate him, Batman said. Aquaman, status. Arthur answered with traffic noise behind him. West tube closed. I've moved to the bay approach. No secondary ships. Waterline is secure. Maintain, Batman said. Hal. Metropolis canopy is up, Hal said. I'm holding a grid over the roofs. I can go high if you need a layer behind the boys. Hold ground, Batman said. If the beam turns, your canopy will not stop it. Focus on falling debris. Copy, Hal said. Darkseid's face remained steady. He watched my hands. He watched how I adjusted the angle. He tried to do the opposite with the beam's internal twist. He rotated the line clockwise half a degree. I rotated my ramp counterclockwise half a degree to cancel it. He reversed. I reversed. He tried to bend the beam around the top of my field and come in low along my ribs. I narrowed the gap and shut that path with a thin strip of hard key so flat it had no room to slip. He pressed. It did not move. He finally spoke again, low and even. "Kneel, and I will end this." "No," I said. "I will end this." Superman pressed closer. "He does not kneel." Darkseid fired forward with his free hand at close range to force Superman off. The point-blank blast hit Clark in the stomach. Clark braced, absorbed, and did not move far. He responded with a headbutt that cracked the air but not skull. Darkseid did not blink. He fired again. Clark took it on his chest and exhaled hard without showing pain. Then he ducked a slow elbow and set his hands on Darkseid's hips. He heaved upward with a straight lift, trying to change the angle of the torso so the beam line would veer. Darkseid's torso moved 2 inches, nothing more. The line did not shift. "Jayon," Batman said. "Disrupt his focus if you can." "I cannot reach his mind," Jayon said. "The field is complete. I can disrupt his peripheral attention." "Do that," Batman said. Jayon's voice went quiet. 2 seconds later, Darkseid's left hand curled into a fist without moving. His eyelids dropped a fraction and came back up. The lance flickered once. I took the moment and raised the ramp higher. The line climbed. Darkseid snapped the focus back in the next beat. The beam squared again. My arms burned again, then settled. "Nice touch," Superman said. Jayon's reply was soft. "It will not work twice." "It worked once," I said. "I'll take it." Diana's voice returned, controlled and firm. "Perimeter clear. No active drops. I'm free." "Hold," Batman said. "No gaps." She accepted that without argument. "Understood." Cyborg's voice had a low edge of urgency now. "Scrambler back online. If you can hold him steady for 10 seconds, I can escalate the interference and force a reset. It will not stop the beam, but it will force him to re-aim." "How long is the reset?" Batman said. 1 second, Cyborg said. "It will fill with nothing. That gives you time to disrupt him." "On my mark," Batman said. "Positions." "Ready," I said. "Ready," Superman said. The lance stayed tight on my forearms. The heat moved. The pain tried to spread. I kept it where it did the least harm. I adjusted the ramp by the width of a hair and checked the lines to make sure nothing leaked around my sides. The space below remained clean. "Mark," Batman said. Cyborg hit the scrambler. The lance's color changed for a fraction. The line cut for a heartbeat, left the world empty, and returned with a twitch. I swung my right forearm up in that heartbeat and angled the ramp a hand-width higher. Superman slammed his shoulder into Darkseid's chest and pushed once, short and hard. Darkseid absorbed both moves and fired again. The line came back already pointed where I'd moved it, more sky, less city. "Good," Batman said. "Do it again in 30. "Copy," Cyborg said. "Cooling." Darkseid's expression stayed flat. He turned his head 1 degree and looked past me at the planet. The beam tried to follow his eyes and then stuck to the previous line. That told me something clean, the beam held to aim by intent as much as sight. I did not let him settle the aim. I kept moving it up a degree here, 2 degrees there, never letting him pocket a stable pattern. He switched tactics. The beam did not stop, but he reached his free hand for my throat with a slow, certain grab. I did not drop the ramp. I rotated my left shoulder and slid his fingers off without giving him joints to hold. He accepted that, then went for my elbow, trying to lock it and drive the arm down. I turned my elbow outward and walked my hand up the ramp in the same motion. He did not get the lock. Superman took the next grab on his forearm, twisted hard, and broke the grip again. Heat rising, Cyborg said. Your barrier is producing thermal bleed. Still safe. Noted, I said. My forearms burned under the skin. The pain was straight and clean now. My hands were steady. The beam did not wander. It kept trying to push into the same spot on my barrier and cut a line. I kept thinning and thickening the layer to deny it. 5, Cyborg said. 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. The scrambler hit again. The world went empty for a breath. I lifted the ramp another hand. Superman drove Darkseid back a half-meter with a double palm. The beam returned and climbed into open sky. Ground is clear, Batman said. Darkseid's gaze shifted for the first time from indifferent to aware. He looked at me with attention. He spoke without volume. You stand in my way. I nodded. Correct. He pressed forward with the lance and tried to walk through me. I leaned into it. My boots dug into nothing because I made the nothing hard. I did not move. Superman gave me one short glance. You good? I'm fine, I said, and meant it. He nodded once and went back to work, fists tight, elbows in. Diana's voice came again. Harbors are stable. Police have the east cordon. National Guard is inbound from the West District. I am ready to move if needed. Remain in place, Batman said. If he turns the beam, I want your shield under it. Understood, she said. Hal cut in next. I'm reinforcing rooftops. If anything falls, I've got it. Keep it up, Batman said. Cyborg. Next pulse in 20, Cyborg said. This will be the last clean one before I have to cycle power. Make it count, Batman said. Darkseid did not let us rest. He fired more power down the lance. The push increased. The pressure on my forearms reached a new line and held. My breath hitched once and smoothed. My heart stayed regular. My shoulders wanted to bow. I did not let them. I talked to my elbows in my head and told them to stop fighting me. They did. The energy in my hands strengthened and sharpened. 10, Cyborg said. Superman leaned in and put his shoulder under Darkseid's beam arm. He did not move him far. He did move him enough to give me one more degree. 5, Cyborg said. 4, 3, 2, 1. The world cut again. I yanked the ramp up a full forearm. Superman smashed a short punch into Darkseid's ribs. The lance returned and burned clean into empty space. Clean, Cyborg said. I need a minute. Batman answered at once. We have it. Darkseid's hand closed. He spoke without heat. You delay me. I breathed in. Yes. He stepped forward and the beam flared. My barrier flashed white at the edges and then went back to steady. The line fought the slope hard and then bent again. Superman shifted his position and whispered with a straight face. You can tag out if you need. I smiled without looking at him. You owe me one. He almost laughed. I'll buy lunch. You're slow to pay, I said. Focus, Batman said in the ear, fully dry. We both nodded like he could see it. Darkseid's face took on a slight tightness around the eyes that told me he finally had to work. He dragged his beam along my barrier at a shallow angle to see if it would skitter into me. I widened the field and smoothed it. The lance slid and did not find purchase. He then tried the opposite and cut in a short arc to catch the joint of my right elbow. I turned my right elbow out and lifted the left forearm to pick up the slack. The beam missed skin by a hair. "Cut that close," Superman said. He kept his tone quiet but direct. "I like precision," I said. "Don't test the margin," Batman said. "I heard you," I said. Below us, Hal's voice came with a smile in it. "City looks better than it did an hour ago." Diana answered with a simple yes. Flash breathed in and out once through the line, then said, "All cleared routes are sealed. No civilians in the open zone. I'm over the bridge if you need me." "Stay ready," Batman said. Darkseid finally broke the lance for a breath and threw a flat palm at my face. I blocked it with my left forearm and shoved his arm up with my right before the beam returned. Superman took that exact half-second and hammered a clean rising punch under Darkseid's chin. He drove him back another meter. The beam reignited a heartbeat later and hit my barrier higher than before because of the backward step. I lifted my arms a fraction and paid for that angle with sore shoulders. Jayon spoke again, voice lighter. "Mother box traffic dropping. He is losing support." "Good," Batman said. "Maintain." Darkseid rolled his neck once. The lance kept burning without change. He looked down at the planet again. I adjusted the ramp before he could call the angle back. He tried to drive the line down. I lifted it. We traded 1 degree at a time. He fought to return to the city line. I did not let him. Cyborg returned with a steady tone. "Scrambler back online. We can do one more hit and then I move to defense. This one is stronger. It will force a longer reset." "Give me the window," Batman said. 15 seconds, Cyborg said. "Mark." The hum built in the channel again. Darkseid felt it and tightened the beam, trying to ride through the interference. The color changed at the edges. The center held. 10, Cyborg said. Superman and I braced and looked at each other for a split second. He nodded. He would hit at the cut. I would lift. Simple. 5, Cyborg said. 4. 3. 2. 1. Cut. The lance died for 2 beats this time. I threw my forearms up as high as I could without opening my ribs. Superman buried both hands in Darkseid's chest and drove him back 5 long meters. Darkseid's body moved. He set his feet in empty air and recovered. The lance returned and went straight into the stars. Clean, Cyborg said, breathing out. That is all I can give. The Scrambler is moving to reserve. Understood, Batman said. Darkseid's eyes dimmed at the edges and then returned to full brightness. He drew a longer breath and placed his feet again. His voice stayed the same. This is delay. Delay wins days, Superman said, eyes still on the target. I kept my arms up and steady. The heat on my skin turned dull. The pain stayed flat. My energy did not shake. The beam stayed away from the planet. Status, Batman said. Beam held, Superman said. Holding, I said. Ground channels came in with a rhythm that sounded good. Perimeter solid. Civilians safe. No new drops. Coast is clear. It was clean work. Darkseid finally cut the lance without warning. The sudden lack of pressure made my arms feel light, then sore. He closed the distance with one step and threw a heavy straight at my jaw. I blocked with my forearm and took the hit along the outside bone. He followed with a fast palm at my chest. Superman slid his own forearm across and ate it. We pushed him back in the same breath, then reset. Good, Batman said quietly. I rolled my shoulders once and flexed my hands. My skin tingled with leftover heat. The burn marks there were already fading. Ready for round 2, I said with a grin that I did not need to hide. Superman's mouth pulled into a small smile. You never change. Accurate, I said. Darkseid lifted his chin. You will kneel. I shook my head slowly. No. We went back in. Chapter 23, Sanction Break. Darkseid closed the distance with a steady step. The Omega Lance was gone. The air around his hands tightened in a way that made my skin prickle. He did not lift his arms far. He did not need to. Jaeon's voice came through the band, calm and precise. Field change. This is not a beam. He is preparing the sanction. Batman's tone shifted by a degree. All units, do not allow a direct line. Keep pressure on him. Diana, stand by to bind. I am ready, Diana said from below, voice steady. The space in front of Darkseid thickened. The red in his eyes did not form lines. It formed a plane. No light. No flare. It just existed where he wanted it to exist. I stepped a half meter to my right to test the pull. It followed me with no delay. It wanted me. It wanted Superman. It did not care who it took as long as it took one of us. Superman moved first, no hesitation. He closed to contact and pressed a forearm against Darkseid's chest to break the stance. Darkseid's head barely moved. The field did not blink. It edged forward. Do not let it touch you, Jaeon said, still calm. It will not be a wound. It will be removal. Not on my list, I said. I stepped into the space between Superman and the field and flattened my key into a sheet with no texture. Null went out from my palm in a tight layer that hugged the surface of the sanction the way oil sits on water. No push. No pull. Just denial. The field pressed against the layer and tried to find a path. It did not find one immediately. It adjusted and tested the edge. Darkseid's eyes narrowed by a fraction. His voice came low and even. This will not hold. It will hold, I said. You will be disappointed. Superman kept one hand on Darkseid's chest and brought the other up under the arm to block a grab. He did not try to rip the limb away. He held the angle and kept that arm busy. Darkseid shifted weight and tried to pivot to his other foot. I stepped with him and kept the null layer between us and the field. The layer wobbled for a second as the sanction pressed. I tightened the edge and stilled it. Batman's voice was firm. Diana. Yes, she said. A golden line rose from the city and cut through the air in a straight climb. She did not announce arrival. She simply arrived. The lasso lit in her hand at a steady glow, no flare. She flew without extra motion and rolled the lasso in a neat loop. It landed around Darkseid's forearm and shoulder with a clean snap. She pulled. The lasso locked with that grip that did not care about muscle. Darkseid's field dimmed at the edges as the lasso grounded his focus to simple truth. He compensated by pushing more power through the sanction. The null layer buckled again. More, I said, and widened the layer to cover Superman's chest as well as my own. The pressure increased instantly. It felt like standing in front of a door that wanted to close. I braced my feet and put my forearm against Superman's bicep so our movements did not cross. He pressed forward another inch. Hal's voice came through from below, tight but cheerful. Metropolis is still tidy. No new drops. I am holding the grid. Hold it, Batman said. Flash. Bridge is clear, Barry said. I am swinging south for any stragglers, then I am on standby. Aquaman, Batman said. Bay approach is clear, Arthur replied. No contact. Cyborg's tone was focused. I am watching the energy shape from up here. The sanction is attempting to wrap around your layer. If it finds a seam, it will slip through. I will not give it one, I said. I changed the null from a single sheet to 3 stacked bands with a micro gap between them. The sanction pressed on the first band and tried to sink into it. The second band sat a finger width behind and matched the movement in the opposite direction to cancel the motion. The third band sat against my palm and Superman's chest to catch anything that slipped. It increased the strain in my hand by a lot. My fingers flexed in reflex and then stilled. The layer held. Darkseid tried to cut around the edge with a small sweep of his wrist. Diana pulled the lasso taut and twisted. It locked his shoulder joint into a clean angle that denied leverage. He pivoted the other way and tried again. The lasso adjusted and kept him honest. Superman leaned in and spoke under his breath without moving his eyes. "You good?" "I am fine," I said. My forearms burned. My chest was steady. My breathing stayed even. The null bands hummed against my skin in a way only I could feel. Darkseid closed his left hand into a fist and drove a shock of gravitic pressure at my knees to break my stance. I opened my toes and glued my feet to the plane with a thin layer of ki. The floor here was my ki and not actual ground. It took the force cleanly because I said it did. The sanction pushed again, this time with a tremble that tried to shake the layer loose. I matched the tremble with a counter tremble and cancelled it out. "Cyborg," Batman said. "Can you add noise?" "Already trying," Victor said. "I am feeding steady interference into the local space. It is not felt in orbit, only around U3. It is a fine band. Do not move out of it." "Understood," Superman said. The interference brushed my ear. The sanction flickered for a breath. Darkseid corrected instantly, no pause. He had used this on gods. He had used this on men. He did not relent when the first pass failed. He layered strength with patience and pressure. That was fine. I did the same. Diana's voice stayed level. "I am moving to the other arm." "Do it," Batman said. She snapped the lasso free and rolled it again in a clean loop. It came around Darkseid's other shoulder and caught the wrist in the same motion. She jerked once and set the bind. His hands were pulled a finger width away from where he wanted them. The field pressure dropped by a hair. I took that hair and increased my own layer by the same amount to widen the cushion. Darkseid's eyes did not leave me. "You waste effort." "I invest," I said. He exhaled. The field thickened again. I felt the sanction try to slide between my bands with a different cadence. I changed mine to a new pattern and cut the attempt. He changed again. I changed again. He did not show irritation. I did not show strain beyond a thin line of heat across my fingers. Superman saw the movement and pressed in harder. The contact point at Darkseid's chest moved a centimeter. It was small. It was good. He kept that gain. He did not lose it to an afterpush. The two of us worked the way we needed to work, no waste, no display. "Oracle," Batman said, voice turned toward his own side channel. Then he came back to us. "Ground units are holding. LZ1 and 2 are closed. We maintain position." Hal's voice floated in with a grin under it. "I can put a cage over the rail yard if you want dessert." "Do not distract him," Batman said. "Hold the roofs." "Copy," Hal said. Cyborg's next update came in with more urgency. "He is shifting the field shape. He will attempt a cone. If he hits the edge of your layer, he will try to slip around it like a blade." "Thank you," I said. "I am ready." The pressure at the corners of my layer increased suddenly. I widened the footprint by a fraction before it reached. Darkseid's field tested the corners and found no gap. It then tried a direct penetration through the center with a fast pulse. I changed the central band's density for a single heartbeat and let it pass into a pocket that had nowhere to go. It stopped in that pocket and fell apart. That took effort. My palm stung after. I liked the direct test. It told me we were in the right range. Superman grunted for the first time since this started and pressed again. "Stand down," he said to Darkseid. Darkseid answered in the same even tone as always. "No." The sanction pulsed again. I matched it. My vision sharpened and my hearing narrowed to the band noise and our breathing. The world outside this bubble faded. That was fine. Others were handling it. Diana moved the lasso along Darkseid's forearm to the wrist and cinched it tight. The golden light brightened along the cord by a small amount. The field dipped again. Superman slid his left hand to Darkseid's elbow and set a clean lock with honest leverage. Darkseid rolled his shoulder and broke it with strength alone. Jaeon's voice came low. "He cannot be made to doubt. Do not waste questions." "No one is asking him questions," Diana said, steady. "Good," Jaeon said. Darkseid's body language changed half a degree. He planted both feet and stopped trying to move ours. He tried to crush through by persistence. The field pressed. The bands took it. The pressure stayed. My fingers tingled. My teeth hurt a little. My head stayed clear. "Victor," Batman said. "Can you throw a second band of noise?" "I can," Cyborg said. "You will feel a shift in the air. Do not lose the stance." "Do it," Batman said. The hum at the edge of hearing deepened. The sanction wavered and then stabilized. It did not break. It did stretch thinner. I raised the density of my middle band to catch that stretch and lengthen it into uselessness. Darkseid forced it back to full. I thinned it again. He forced it back. It was a tug with numbers. I liked numbers. Superman leaned into me for a second and then leaned back. He had used me to reset his angle without asking. It was clean use. I didn't mind. He snapped a short punch into Darkseid's shoulder with the free hand and then returned to the press. Darkseid took it and ignored it. "Status," Batman said. "Containment holds," Superman said. "Holding," Diana said. "Holding," I said. Hal's voice dropped a little of the humor. "I am still watching the tube. It is small now. It will not take much to collapse it." "Do not act," Batman said. "Wait for Cyborg's mark." "I am waiting," Hal said. Aquaman returned with the simple truth. "Water is calm." Cyborg's fingers tapped metal in the background. He came back focused. "I can overload the scrambler one more time and fracture his field. It will not last long. It will interrupt him. That is the best I can offer." "That is enough," Batman said. "On our signal." "Ready," Cyborg said. I adjusted my bands by one more degree and split the center band into a cross so that when the field tried to move at one angle it met a counter in two directions. The pressure found 4 lines instead of 1. It did not like that. Darkseid's eyes narrowed again. He spoke without volume. "Yield." I shook my head. "No." "Now," Batman said. The hum changed. The sanction surface rippled. It did not shut off, but it faltered. I raised my palms an inch and tilted the layer a hair. The field slid along it and missed our chests by a clean margin. Superman took the opening and drove Darkseid 3 full meters with a push that looked simple and was not. Diana yanked the lasso and shifted his shoulders out of alignment. Darkseid cut the field rather than let it twist. He tried to open a boom tube behind me to swallow my back. I heard the crack in the air and cut the seam with a narrow pulse of destruction key. The seam collapsed. He tried again behind Diana. She whipped the lasso and slapped the rim. The magic in it did the rest. The tube failed. He lifted his hands and resumed the sanction at once. He had not given up on it. It now moved in steps rather than a smooth pour. That was Cyborg's interference working through. I let my bands reshape to match the new steps. I locked my elbows and kept it tight. My body wanted to shake. I did not let it. "Victor," Batman said. "You are clear to hand management to the station. Move to global defense." "Already en route," Cyborg said. "Watchtower has you." Superman spoke low. "We hold." "We hold," I said. Diana did not waste a word. She pulled and tightened again. The lasso dug in a long stone skin and did not slip. Darkseid pressed forward with his body when the field failed to progress. He tried to walk through us. We did not move. He scowled in a small way. He fired 2 short omega bursts from the corners of his eyes to force a flinch. I held them both with a 2-finger pinch and shut them off. The burns on the pads of my fingers stung for a heartbeat and then went dull. I smiled despite it. He looked at the fingers and then back at my face. "You are a nuisance," he said. "Accurate," I said. "Ask anyone." Superman did not engage with the banter. He kept the pressure stable. His jaw set in a line that told me he was monitoring my breath rate and would shove me aside if it changed. It did not change. Jaeon's voice returned. "He is reinforcing defense now more than offense. You have interrupted the sanctions rhythm. He will try a different application." "Call it," Batman said. "I will," Jaeon said. Darkseid exhaled in a way that did not waste air. He moved both hands a few centimeters. The field compacted into a dense node rather than a plane and aimed at my scalp. I raised my hands over my head and flipped the layer vertical like a shield and not a ramp. The node stopped against it and tried to drill. I rotated the layers in place. The node lost purchase. I pressed it upward away from my bones and held. "Good," Superman said softly. "Stay with it." "Always," I said. Diana shifted position and brought the lasso low around Darkseid's hips. She cinched and pulled. He set his feet and refused the movement by strength alone. She grunted once and put more power into the cord. The line glowed brighter. The sanction flickered again. I lifted under it as it dimmed. It came back and met the layer higher than before. Cyborg's voice hit the channel. "I am out of scramblers. Watchtower has orbital control. I am moving to close the last gate. Hal, get ready." "On your mark," Hal said. 3, Cyborg said. 2. 1. Mark. From the corner of my eye I saw the boom tube above the rail yard shrink and stutter. Hal poured a hard green column across it and held. Diana's eyes moved a hair. She kept the lasso tight. The tube pulsed and then imploded. The echo took a second to reach us. It was a clean end. "Gate down," Cyborg said. "No new locks. We have only him." Batman's voice stayed flat. "Then we hold him here until he leaves." Darkseid's eyes lifted a hair. He took that information without a change in face. He stopped pressing the sanction for 3 heartbeats. During those itches, Superman hit him with a low, tight combination that moved him half a meter. I kept the layer ready. It was not needed. Darkseid did not reapply the field. He looked at me and then at Clark and then down at the city. He spoke in the same even tone. "You have chosen delay." I said, "You understand the plan." He lowered his hands and fired 2 omega beams downward. They were not lances. They were probes. I extended one palm and erased one with a precise cut. Superman severed the other with heat vision and let the pieces die. Darkseid watched both actions and then brought the beams back and tucked them away behind his eyelids again. He tried to step sideways into a boom tube he opened behind his heel. I put a hand on his shoulder and squeezed. The tube hesitated because my hand sat where his anchor wanted to be. He closed it and opened another 2 meters away. Diana snapped the lasso and hooked the rim. It failed. He accepted the failure without visible irritation. "Status," Batman said to the ground. The ground answered with short, clean updates. No civilians exposed. No fires out of control. No open tubes. No parademons in the air. He took in the list without changing voice. "Good." Darkseid's gaze returned to me. "You do not belong here." "I work here," I said. He tilted his chin toward Superman. "He will tire." "You will tire." Superman answered. "Not before you leave." We pressed him another meter with no drama. He did not go far, but he did go. He looked past us at the curve of Earth and stood very still for a full second. Then he lifted one hand in a way that said this part was over. The boom tube at his back opened, small and quiet. It locked in a range that our scramblers could not reach from this angle without tearing through us first. "Jayon," Batman said sharply. "I cannot block that anchor," Jayon said at once. "He is keyed." Superman moved to close the distance fully to keep him from stepping through. Darkseid fired 2 beams, not at us, but at our legs. We adjusted without giving ground. He stepped back a half pace and let the field around the tube take him. He did not hurry. He did not speak. He vanished. The air around us went back to thin and cold. The COMM filled with steady breathing and nothing else for 3 seconds. Then Batman's voice filled the space. "Do not relax. Scan." Cyborg was already scanning. No active tubes in range. No locks. Satellites show clear sky. I am chasing residuals. Nothing solid. Jayon spoke slower. His mind is out of range. Superman kept his stance for 2 more seconds, then exhaled and opened his hands. He looked at me and at Diana. "Everyone's status." "I am fine," Diana said. Her voice had a slight strain under the smooth line. She did not hide it. She let it be and moved on. "Metropolis perimeter is intact. I will confirm ground in person." "Grid is steady," Hal said. "I am up top if anything falls." "Aquaman here," Arthur said. "No movement in the bay." "Flash," Batman said. "I am at rail level," Barry said. "I can do a sweep of the industrial yards." People are already cheering from a safe distance. It is not organized, but it is not chaos. Batman took it all in. "Good. We are not finished. Keep positions until we confirm global clear." Cyborg's tone turned businesslike again. "I am moving to long-range sweep. If a tube reopens, I will know." Superman gave me a short nod. "You held that?" "I did," I said. My forearms still burned from the sanction. The skin on my palms was red. The pain moved into a steady glow and then into a hum. It would be gone in a minute. I rolled my shoulders once to reset the joints. He tried to slip around the edges. The bands worked. Superman glanced at my hands. "You should cool that." "After we are done," I said. Diana hovered a meter to my left. She rewound the lasso in clean coils and clipped it back at her hip. Her face eased by a small degree. "You matched him precisely. That saved time." I grinned. "I invest." She did not smile back, but her eyes softened. "You did well." Hal floated a little lower, green aura dimmer now. "I kept your city from getting messy. I deserve a medal." You deserve coffee, Barry said, amused. Both, Hal said. Batman did not comment on that. We are not off the clock. Confirm the rail yard. I am already there, Barry said. No one is trapped. The crane operator is sitting on the ground and crying, but he is breathing. The bus driver wants to go home. Police will take it, Batman said. Direct them to the east gate. Done, Barry said. Superman looked at me again. You want to come down or stay up? I looked down at the city. The skyline was intact. The roofs were in place. The river moved in a normal way. The air around the yard shimmered from heat and power, but it was clearing. I will give the sky 5 more minutes, I said. Then I will steal Hal's coffee. Hal laughed. Get your own. Diana nodded once and dropped away without a word. She descended in a clean line and headed for the rail level. Hal followed, slower. Superman and I stayed in position. Victor, Batman said. Record the sanction bands and send them to the archive. Already saved, Cyborg said. I will add notes. The 3-band method with counter cadence is now a file. Superman's mouth curved a fraction. You make that sound boring. I like boring, Cyborg said. I tilted my head. You like working. Same difference, he said, and muted his end for a second to talk to the watchtower. The wind at this height did nothing. The curve of Earth spun. The city glowed. The COMM settled into short updates and confirmation tones. Everyone's breathing slowed. The pressure went out of my hands. My fingers moved without ache. A few minutes later, Batman's tone shifted back to standard. Global scan clear. Darkseid is gone. Stand down in stages. Ground first. Diana answered first, then Hal, then Barry, then Arthur. Cyborg added his log. Jayon closed with a simple quiet. Superman looked at me one more time. You still want coffee? Yes, I said. He nodded, then paused. You did well. I smirked. I always do. He almost smiled. You always say that. Because it's true, I said. He shook his head, amused and a little tired. Let's go down. We descended together. The air thickened. The sound of the city returned. The rail yard spread below with emergency vehicles in neat lines and a crowd held back by police. Reporters pointed cameras at the sky. The crane operator sat on the curb with a blanket around his shoulders. He looked up at us for a second and then looked down again, overwhelmed but not broken. We landed a block away from the main group to avoid turning the cleanup into a show. Diana stood by the perimeter, shield at her side, gaze steady on the line. Hal hovered nearby and flashed a grin at a child on a rooftop who waved at him. Barry leaned against a light pole and ate something from a wrapper. Arthur did not show. He stayed at the water. Batman did not make an appearance. He stayed where he always stayed and moved the pieces. I flexed my hands once more. The skin was normal again. The hum was gone. I felt steady. My energy sat quiet. My mind sat sharper than it had at the start. That was the good part about these fights. They clarified the lines. Coffee, Hal said, reading my look. Fine. You can have one. I will take 2, I said. He laughed. You can fight Darkseid. You cannot fight my wallet. Diana shook her head once. You two do not change. Why would we? I said. She did not answer, but there was a hint of humor in the way she looked at us. Superman looked at the yard and then at the sky. I will do a final sweep. Go, I said. I will check on the operator. He nodded and took off with a steady rise. I walked over to the curb and crouched in front of the man with the blanket. He had dust on his face and a scrape on his cheek. His hands shook a little. He looked at me and tried to stand. I put a hand up. "Stay," I said. "You did fine." He swallowed. I dropped it. "I caught it," I said. "No harm done." He nodded once, grateful and embarrassed at the same time. He took a breath that almost stuttered and let it go. "Drink water," I said. "Sleep later." He nodded again. "Thank you." I stood and stepped back to give space to the medics who were already moving in. Barry zipped past and left a bottle of water in the man's hands without asking. The operator blinked and then smiled a little. "Show off," I said, not a complaint. Barry pointed at Hal. "He's worse." "True," Hal said, unbothered. Diana followed the exchange with a small shake of her head. She walked to the police line and spoke briefly with the captain. The woman listened with attention and then nodded at everything. The line held. Batman came back on the band. "Good work. We are not going to stage a press event. Keep it clean. Do not linger." Superman answered from above. "Understood." I tapped my COMM once in acknowledgement. Hal did the same. Diana did not need to. She handled it her way. Cyborg pinged one last time. "I am sending you all the logs. Review if you want your name spelled right." Hal laughed. "Spell mine with a crown." "I will spell it with an invoice," Cyborg said, then muted again. Superman returned, landed, and gave a small nod to the captain. She nodded back. He turned to me. "Coffee." I looked at Hal. He sighed. "Fine. Tacos then coffee." Barry raised a hand. "I am in." Diana glanced upward once as if calculating time. "I cannot join. I have a briefing." "Next time," I said. She nodded once and took off without extra motion. No wave. No display. She did not need either. Superman looked at me. "You are coming." "Obviously," I said. Hal floated backward in a lazy drift and pointed toward the street. "Go before Clark changes his mind." "Clark does not change his mind," I said. Superman did not argue. We walked toward the end of the block. People cheered from a distance. We did not walk closer. We did not wave. We stayed on the work side of the line and let the police handle the rest. The COMM clicked one last time with Batman's voice. "Debrief in 2 hours. Clean up, then check in." "Copy," we all said, more or less in unison. I looked down at my hands one more time as we turned the corner. They were steady. The null bands sat in my head as a neat pattern ready for the next time. That was the part I liked. The work that stays. Hal snapped his fingers in front of my face. "Stop thinking. Eat." "I am thinking about food," I said. "Good," he said, satisfied. We kept moving. Chapter 24, High Band Intercept. We were 2 blocks from the rail yard perimeter when the COMM clicked 3 times in a fast pattern. Cyborg's voice came through tight and clear. "I've got a stealth coordinate build in low orbit. Spectrum mask looks apocalyptian. It's thin, but it's there." Batman followed immediately. "Location: Upper Thermosphere, 20 degrees east of Metropolis Meridian," Cyborg said. "Altitude around 110 kilometers and climbing. It's trying to form a lock from above instead of below. That avoids the scrambler grid we used." "Move," Batman said. "Clark. Take him with you. Keep it away from the ground. Diana and Hal will lock the city. Flash, maintain perimeter flow." "On it," Superman said. I met his eyes. He was already lifting. I'll race you, I said. Just get there, he said, but there was a small smile. We kicked off at the same time. Air pressed against my face and slid away. The city shrank fast. The rail lines became thin grey threads. The river line narrowed. My ears popped and cleared. The air thinned and cooled. The sky darkened. Feeding coordinates, Cyborg said. A translucent marker pinged on my HUD, his uplink tied to my whitelist in the watchtower. Target window is 3 kilometers wide and moving. The lock is trying to keep ahead of us. It's a braid, not a point. I can see it, Superman said. I saw it too, empty space that wasn't empty, a fine shimmer where nothing should move. I pushed harder. Ki sat smooth in my chest and arms. Heat built at my wrists and stayed there. My breathing stayed regular. Diana, Batman said on a separate channel. Secure the South River bridges. Keep your shield ready. Already moving, she said. Police are repositioning. Jordan, Batman said. I've got rooftop cover and airspace lockdown, Hal said. If anything falls, I catch it. Flash, Batman added. Perimeter is clean, Barry said. I'm rotating to the east flank and then back to the yard. Good, Batman said. Main unit, no collateral. Keep it high. We broke into the thin air above the last cloud shelf. The wind fell away. The blue fell to a narrow ring. The black took over. The faint shimmer grew. It looked like heat over stone, but colder and cleaner. It moved in a slow twist. Cyborg adjusted the marker again. The build is a tri-phase coordination. It's using residual omega noise from the earlier lance and folding mother box math around it. If it locks, you'll get a boom tube opening in a falling frame. It will drop straight at the city. Then it won't lock, I said. Correct, Batman said. Superman slowed just enough to set his angle and then drove forward. I matched him at his right shoulder. The shimmer widened. A ring of space started to ripple. Cyborg, Superman said. Do we have scrambler coverage here? Not with the old pattern, Cyborg answered. I can generate a high band burst from the watchtower, but it needs a fixed vector to bite. You have to hold that window steady for 10 seconds. I rolled my shoulders and flexed my hands. We'll hold it. Superman nodded once. We fix it. You cut it. Correct, Cyborg said. Watch your output. The station is whitelisting you, but if you spike, it'll tag you. I'll behave, I said, smiling. Do not test it, Batman said. I opened my hands and spread a flat field across the target window. The field was thin and wide, pressure on the skin of space more than force. Superman positioned himself on the other side and matched the shape. The braid pushed against both of us and tried to slip away into a new alignment. Left edge, I said. It's drifting. I see it, Superman said, stepping in half a meter. The shimmer bucked against my palm. A small edge tried to flow around my right hand. I shifted my wrist and put more density at that corner. The edge flattened. The field steadied. Superman mirrored the adjustment without a word. Good, Cyborg said. That's the vector. Hold it. 10 seconds, Batman said. Count it. On it, Jayon said softly. His voice became a metronome. 10. 9. 8. The braid tried to rotate under my hand. I matched the rotation and kept the center on the marker. My forearms heated slightly. The skin prickled. The pressure was steady. Superman's breath stayed even on the channel. His hands did not shake. 7. 6, Jaeon counted. The braid twitched at the bottom edge. I felt it with my fingertips before I saw it. I pressed down a fraction. Superman lifted up a fraction to keep the window steady. The braid tried to bulge around the lower corner. I pushed it in. It slid back into the held shape. 5. 4. A thin flicker tried to form at the far right corner. I slid my right hand a centimeter and closed the angle. It died without opening. The pressure increased for 2 beats and then normalized. The space around our hands felt tight and grainy without sound. 3. 2. 1. Now, Batman said. Cyborg hit the burst. The air did not move. The shimmer tore at the edges and folded in. The lock stuttered and lost coherence. The image in my HUD flashed green. The braid unraveled in a clean pattern. Cut, Cyborg said. That's one. Scan again, Batman said. Already doing it, Cyborg replied. Residuals moving. The build is trying a new band 4 kilometers west. Paint it, Superman said. New marker. New twist. We were already in motion. We hit the second window in 2 seconds. The pressure here came at a different rhythm. It pulsed instead of sliding. I matched the pulse with a counter pulse and kept it stable. Superman steadied the far side. The braid pressed and tried to find the center. We denied it. 10, Jaeon said again, tone steady. 9. I felt the shift at my left thumb. I rotated my hand half a degree. It settled. My right shoulder burned in a familiar way and then cooled. The field stayed smooth. Superman adjusted by a hair and forced the side to stop drifting. 8. 7. Cyborg, Batman said, watch thermal on the station. Within limits, Cyborg said. I can give you 3 more bursts if the patterns stay the same. Good, Batman said. 6. 5. The braid tried a drop under our hands. It pressed down and then slipped up. It wanted a slip. It did not get one. 4. 3. 2. 1. Now, Batman said. Burst. The window tore and folded. The lock fell apart. 2 down, Cyborg said. New band forming at a higher altitude. 140 kilometers. It's narrower. Move, Batman said. We moved. I felt light and clean. The climb was easy. The black thickened. The curve of Earth grew clean and round. The braids here were thinner and tighter. The pressure was stronger. The window was smaller. Watch your hands, Superman said. It's tight. I like tight, I said. Less margin for error. More precise. He did not look at me, but the corner of his mouth moved. Stay disciplined. Always, I said. We hit the bend at speed and stopped on it without overshoot. My palms tingled. The field pressed back hard. I slowed my breath and flattened my hands. The braid tried to punch through my field at one point. I put all the weight of my forearms into that spot without changing shape. It slowed and stopped. 10, Jaeon counted. 9. Lantern, Batman said in the ground channel. Report. Rooftops intact, Hal said. I'm holding the last 2 cranes and 3 billboards. I look heroic. Good, Batman said. Worry about being effective. I am both, Hal said, not offended. Diana, Batman said. I am walking the line, she said. All units are in position. No breaches. Flash, Batman said. Bridge is clear. East flank is quiet, Barry said. I can pace with you if needed. Stay ground, Batman said. 8. 7, Jaeon said. I felt a thread try to hook under my left palm. I rolled my wrist and cut it off. It tried to slip to Superman's side. He closed the gap. The thread retreated. The pressure climbed and then plateaued. 6. 5. 4. Watchtower is stable, Cyborg said. Output is clean. 3. 2. 1. Now, Batman said. Burst. The window snapped and collapsed inward. The braid fell into static. The marker cleared. 3. Cyborg said. New pattern at the limb. It's using the horizon as a shield. That's a smarter build. Give coordinates, Superman said. Marker at our far left. The band sat low, just above the blue ring. The angle was awkward. We angled down partway, careful not to point anything at the city. The braid here was faster. It zipped through the window like a thread in a sewing machine. I caught the rhythm and set my palms in the path. It bounced off and tried another angle. 10, Jaeon said. I tracked the speed and adjusted finger pressure, which changed the field density by small increments. The braid's rhythm hit my field at the wrong times because I kept changing those times. It could not settle. 9. 8. Cyborg, Batman said. Can you give a softer burst without full draw? I do not want satellite drift. I can half pulse, Cyborg said. It will take longer to tear. We have time, Batman said. 7. 6. The braid probed at Superman's outer edge. He locked his elbow and closed the path. His voice stayed level. Right edge is hot. I have it, I said, moving a finger. The heat at my wrist increased for a second and then evened out. 5. 4. 3. Half burst in 3, Cyborg said. 2. 1. The half burst felt like pressure that tugged on my palms. The braid distorted and stretched. It did not tear, but it lost structure. The window loosened. I flattened my hands more and kept it from reforming. Full burst in 2, Cyborg said. Now, Batman said. The full burst ripped it. The window died. 4, Cyborg said. No, 3. The rest are decoys. They're trying to feed you noise. Filter it, Batman said. I am, Cyborg said. One more actual build. High side. 160 kilometers. It's coiled. Paint it, Superman said. Marker flashed. We were already moving. The band was coiled into a tight spiral. It wanted to bloom into a tube pointed at the city. We caught it before it bloomed. I put both palms into the line and pressed the spiral flat. Superman leaned on the other side and did the same. It's trying to split, Cyborg warned. I see it, I said. The spiral tried to branch into 2 smaller spirals. I crossed my wrists and recut my field into an X across the window. Superman mirrored me. The branches hit the cross and stalled. They tried to grow around the edges. We shifted our wrists 1 centimeter together and shut the movement off. 10, Jaeon said, steady as a metronome. 9. Watch your elbows, Superman said quietly. Watching, I said. 8. 7. The spiral thrummed against my palms. The pressure increased in short, hard waves. My hands shook once and then settled. My jaw clenched and then relaxed. I kept the field steady and smooth. 6. 5. Watchtower is running hot, Cyborg said. I can give you this one and then I need to drop power for 30 seconds. It will be enough, Batman said. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, Batman said. The burst hit. The spiral tore down the middle. The branches tried to heal. I pressed the cut and widened it with a direct push. Superman added his own push from the other side. The spiral fell apart. Clean, Cyborg said, exhaling. No new builds. Residuals are scattered. I'm chasing them. Jayon. Nothing within reach, Jayon said. The mines are far. Batman paused for 2 beats, then spoke. Hold position for 30 seconds. Confirm clear. Diana, ground status. Calm, she said. Police are moving people away in orderly lines. No panic. Jordan, Batman said. I'm still pretty, Hal said. One billboard fell 2 inches. I yelled at it. It listened. Stay on task, Batman said. On task, Hal said, still amused. Flash, Batman said. Clean up routes open, Barry said. I'm relaying to emergency services. Cyborg's tone smoothed out. Residuals are decaying. I'm logging locations in case they try to reuse them. The high band burst did the most damage. Good, Batman said. Main unit, descend when ready. Stay alert on the way down. Copy, Superman said. I checked my hands. Skin red, no blisters, heat fading. My breathing normal. My pulse regular. The strain in my shoulders turning to simple warmth. I'll take point on the way down, I said. Go ahead, Superman said. We angled down. The black softened to dark blue, then to a paler line. The air gained weight. The sound of wind returned in low pressure, then stronger. My ears adjusted. The city widened. The grid sharpened. The river reflected. Victor, Batman said, push your logs to the archive and the UN relay. Already done, Cyborg said. Watchtower is back to normal draw. Jayon, Batman said. I will continue monitoring, Jayon said. We reached the first cloud layer. The tops glowed in clean light. We slipped through. The city's lines came up at us, roofs, streets, clean industrial blocks, vehicles held in place by police. People pointed up. They looked small and steady at the same time. We sat down where we started, 2 blocks off the yard, away from the crowd. Hal hovered down next to us and let his aura dim. Diana stood nearby, shield slung across her back, lasso clipped at her hip. Barry skidded to a stop with a paper cup in each hand and a grin. I brought coffee, he said, pleased. Hal pointed. He stole that. I borrowed it and then paid, Barry said. I'm responsible. Superman took 1 cup and passed it to me. You earned it. I always do, I said, and drank. It was hot and simple. It cut the dryness at the back of my throat. Diana watched the sky for another second and then relaxed a hair. The ground will hold. It will, Superman said. Hal sipped his own cup, then made a face. This is terrible. It's coffee, Barry said. It did its job. Barely, Hal said, but he drank the rest anyway. The police captain walked over with purpose and calm. She nodded to Diana, then to Superman. We are clear. We will keep civilians out of the area until your people finish whatever they need to finish. Thank you, Captain, Superman said. We appreciate it. She looked at me for a second. Her jaw tightened and then loosened. Good job up there. I nodded. You too. She returned the nod and walked back to her line. Cyborg came back on the COMM. Global is stable. No tubes. No builds. I'm switching the watchtower to widescan and leaving the high band on hair trigger. If anything twitches, I'll know. Do it, Batman said. Everyone else, take 10. Debrief on schedule. Copy, Superman said. Diana tapped her COMM once and then looked at the crowd. I will speak to the local commander and then return to Washington. Understood, Superman said. She walked off with even steps. Hal floated backward and dropped to sit on an overturned crate. Barry leaned on a light pole and looked like he was vibrating under the skin without moving. I finished the coffee and let the heat sit in my chest. Superman touched down beside me and looked up at the sky we had just left. You tracked it well. It was obvious, I said, smiling a little. He shook his head, amused. It was not obvious. For me, I said. He did not argue, but his eyes said he heard it. Jaeon's voice returned, quiet. There is still no mine to follow. He has withdrawn. He will be back, Batman said, even. Then I will keep the scramblers warm, Cyborg said. Do that, Batman said. Hal stood up and stretched. You two done staring at the sky? Tacos are still real. Barry raised his hand. I am always ready. Superman looked at me. You wanted coffee. You got coffee. I did, I said. Now I want food. Fine, Hal said. I am paying for nothing. You already paid for the coffee, Barry said helpfully. Traitor, Hal said. Diana returned, gave a brief nod to the captain, then to us. I am required elsewhere. Go, Superman said. She lifted without flourish and left at steady speed. The crowd at the end of the block started clapping again in irregular bursts. We stayed where we were. Police redirected attention. The sound faded. I rolled my wrists and flexed my fingers. The skin on my palms looked normal again. The null patterns from the sanction sat in my head in a neat grid. The braid holds for the orbit windows sat next to them. Both would be useful again. Both were clean. Superman took one more look at the skyline and let a slow breath out. I will do one last circuit. Go, I said. We will not eat everything. Hal made a skeptical sound. Do not trust him. Barry grinned. I will save you one. Superman shook his head, a little amused again, and rose smooth into the air. The COMM went quiet except for background noise. The city sounded like a city again, sirens at the far edge, voices in manageable numbers, vehicles starting and stopping in controlled lines. No panic. No smoke. Just work. I stood there for another minute and let the quiet sit in my muscles. Then I tapped my ear. Batman. Yes, he said. Good call on the hold. The braid wanted to slip. We gave it nothing. That is the job, he said. You did it. I know, I said, smiling. He did not answer that. Hal clapped me on the shoulder. Food. Food, I said. We started walking. Chapter 25, Farside Echo. We had not gone 20 steps when the COMM clicked hard. Cyborg's voice came through sharp and fast. Deep Space Coordinate Echo. Lunar Far Side. Spectrum fits Apocalyptian Cloak. It's faint and moving. Batman followed without pause. Location and vector. 200 kilometers above the Farside Highlands, Cyborg said. Drifting sunward. It's a ring seed trying to anchor off our scrambler grid. Move, Batman said. Clark, take him. Keep it off the Earth line. Diana, Hal lock the city. Flash, hold the perimeter. I'm on the climb, Superman said, already looking up. I met his eyes and grinned. Race you. Just keep up, he said, but there was a small lift in his tone. We launched. Air slid over my face and then dropped away. Metropolis shrank. The river turned into a clean ribbon. Clouds rose and then fell under us. The sky went dark and quiet. The blue faded to a thin ring. The curve of earth widened. My body settled into the climb without strain. The key sat calm and tight under my skin. Cyborg fed a marker straight to my HUD. I'm painting the echo. It's shifting its center every half second. It wants to keep the lock loose. Stable it, Batman said. Give us a window. Working, Cyborg said, hands loud on metal. Diana's voice came from below, steady. South bridges are clear. Police are set at the lines. Hal cut in with the same easy edge. Rooftops sealed. I'm standing on a billboard, and it is listening. Stay on mission, Batman said. No humor. Fine, Hal said, still amused. We crossed high orbit and kept going. The moon filled the forward view with a cold grey face. I felt an old familiarity tug through my chest. I had trained there for hours on silent days. Today was not a silent day. Jaeon's voice came soft and clear. I can sense no mind, but there is a blind patch near the marker. Expect a passive field. Superman adjusted course a fraction. I see the echo. So did I. It was a soft smudge where nothing should be. Space grain that moved in a way normal space did not. It tracked sunward, slow and deliberate. Victor, Batman said, can you give a burst up here? Not the same one we used near Earth, Cyborg said. I can push a high band pulse from the watchtower, but the angle is bad. You'll have to hold the window and keep it away from the lunar surface. If it grabs rock, it will anchor into regolith and we will have to cut with shovels. Not interested, I said. We hold it off the surface. Superman nodded once. We keep it in free space. Good, Batman said. No debris. We slid into position above the Farside Highlands. The surface below was a field of old scars and new dust. The echo sat above it, a thin ring that tried to be nothing and almost was. It shuddered when we closed. It wanted to coalesce into a boom tube rim. It didn't like our proximity. I've got a secondary ping, Cyborg said. Mother box math writing under it. It's using the last omega residue in the upper atmosphere as a key. If it locks, it bypasses our scrambler. Not happening, I said. I spread my hands flat in front of the moving ring. My field went thin and wide. Superman mirrored me on the far side. The ring pressed against both of us. It tried to slide around our palms and find the open sky beyond. We shifted with it. The drift slowed. Window set, Jaeon said, voice steady. Hold for 10. We didn't need a count yet. The ring probed my left thumb. I rolled my wrist and increased density at that edge. It retreated and tried Superman's right corner. He closed it neatly. The pressure grew. The surface below stayed untouched. I kept one eye on the grey line of the highlands and made sure nothing aimed down. Victor, Batman said. Heat on the watchtower. Within margin, Cyborg replied. I can pulse in 5 if you give me a stable vector. Stable, Superman said. Mark in 3, Jaeon said. 2. 1. On your go, Batman said. Cyborg hit the pulse. The echo trembled and stuttered. It tried to reknit and failed. It fell apart into static and drifted toward emptiness. Cut, Cyborg said. That's 1. Scan, Batman said. Already scanning, Cyborg answered. You've got a second echo at 2 o'clock, closer to the limb. It's testing our lateral response. Superman angled a shoulder and slid right. I followed left to fill the gap. The second echo tried to pop and found our palms. It pressed. It wanted the limb because noise there helps hide movement. I took its rhythm with my hands, matched and opposed it, and kept it centered in the air above rock. Superman did the same. It felt clean and tight. Hold, Jayon said. I am counting. 10. 9. It jabbed at my right wrist. I lifted the heel of my hand an inch and shut the jab down. It pressed straight through center. I thickened my field there and took the jab on the heel without letting it slide. Superman set his forearm and changed his angle by a hair. The ring stalled. 3. 2. 1, Jayon said. Now, Batman said. The pulse tore it. Space went quiet. 2 down, Cyborg said. I still have that cloak in play. There's a third echo moving faster. It's sunward above the far side basin. Superman didn't wait. Paint it. Marker flashed. We rose and crossed into the darker arc. The echo slid along the rim of nothing in a neat circle and tried to lock on the far side of our hands. We moved, checked, and held. Victor, Batman said, how long can you keep this up? 3 more pulses at full, then I need to rotate draw, Cyborg said. I can half pulse through the rest. Good, Batman said. 10, Jayon said. 9. 8. The echo tried a split here. It wanted 2 rings at once. I crossed my wrists and cut my field into an X. Superman did the same. The split hit the cross and bunched. It tried to slip around the ends. I moved my wrists 1 centimeter outward and took the ends away. 4. 3. 2. 1. Now, Batman said. Pulse hit. The ring crumpled and died. 3, Cyborg said, breath steady. Next is dirty. I'm seeing drone traces. Confirm, Batman said. I have Apocalyptian drone signatures blinking on and off inside the cloak, Cyborg said. They're small and running quiet. Expect interference, Batman said. Do not lose the window. Understood, Superman said. The 4th echo formed lower, closer to the limb than I liked. Drones flickered in and out near the rim. They were no bigger than cars, armored and mean. They stayed in the blind patch and pumped out interference. That made my teeth itch. Hal, Batman said, if any drones break atmosphere, you catch them. Ready, Hal said, his tone less playful now. The echo slid toward the surface. I dropped my palms into the space between it and the rock and held it clear. A drone jabbed at my right shoulder with a spike of power meant to distract. I ignored it. Superman caught the spike with heat vision and burned it dead clean without spill. The drone blinked out and came back 3 meters away. He burned it again. It learned and stayed back. 10, Jayon said. The ring tried to follow the drone's angle. I shut the path and forced it to face me. It tested Superman's edges. He pressed them tight and held. The surface stayed safe. 9. 8. Cyborg sounded busy. I'm pushing a scatter across the cloaks. They'll drop for a second. Give it to us, Batman said. 3. 2. 1, Jayon said. Now, Batman said. Pulse. Cloaks dropped. 4 drones snapped into view. Superman's eyes flared. 2 drones went dark. The remaining 2 surged at my hands. I didn't step back. I bent a small bead of destruction key into a line and shaved both drones through their power cores with no debris. They blinked out and stayed out. The ring faltered and fell apart. 4, Cyborg said. I have 2 pulses left at full. The rest we do by hand. That's fine, I said. Next echo is high, Cyborg said. Above the limb. It's a straight ring trying to break speed limits. It wants to beat you to lock. Paint it, Superman said. We moved. The ring was faster and tighter than the others. I tracked it with my hands and stayed in front. Superman got ahead of it and set his field to catch the incoming turn. It banged against both of us and tried to ricochet into a point. It didn't find the freedom. Hold, Jayon said. 10. Victor, Batman said, shift watchtower draw mid-poles to protect the grid. I'll stagger the capacitors, Cyborg said. You won't feel the drop. 9. 8, Jayon said. The ring jammed my left palm and tried to force my wrist around. I did not give it the joint. It tried to slide under my right thumb. I sealed the opening there with a stiffened edge. Superman locked the far side and took the bump. The echo ran out of angle. 3. 2. 1. Now, Batman said. Pulse hit. The ring snapped. 5 down, Cyborg said. Residuals only. I am rotating to half pulses for cleanup. Do it, Batman said. Silence stretched for 3 breaths. Then Cyborg again. I'm still reading the cloak, just weaker. And hold. I have a shadow behind the moon. Not an anchor. A relay. It is using regolith to hide. Paint it, Superman said. Marker came up at the far side crater rim. It glowed faint and stubborn. It was a seed buried under dust, with a small energy signature barely above background. It had to be slated to feed coordinates later. That meant it could be a problem later. Do not disturb the surface, Batman said. We cannot chip the moon. I can cut without a mess, I said. Clark, Batman said, shield any splash. On it, he said. We slipped lower until the curve of the moon filled everything. The crater wall rose and then the basin opened. Fine dust drifted in a slow wave near the floor. There was no wind. There was only motion because something had been here and moved. I hovered above the marker and narrowed my eyes. The seed lay 3 meters below the surface in a bed of small rocks, wrapped in a cage no bigger than a man's chest. It didn't radiate heat. It had a quarm weave around its shell that wanted to drink scans and give nothing back. I didn't need a scan. I could feel its edges through the field. Input? I asked. Lines are mapped, Cyborg said. I see 12 thin channels running out of the cage. They branch in the dust and reconnect farther away. If you cut them wrong, it will burrow deeper. I will cut at the hub, I said. Clean lines only. No spill. Superman positioned himself above me, hands out, ready to catch anything that tried to pop. I sank my right hand and formed a needle of destruction key so thin it felt like a hair. I set it against the energy cage and pressed without movement until I felt the weave give. Then I moved less than a millimeter and sliced a seam. The cage split. No flash. No drift. Dust moved a fraction and then settled. I cut again at a 90-degree angle. The quarter folded inward on itself and died. The seed tried to misdirect by sending a pulse down 2 of its lines. I saw the root in the dust and severed both lines with 2 more cuts before the pulse could reach anything. Stable, Cyborg said, watching. Pressure in the lines is dropping. Superman held still above me. He did not ask for status. He watched my hands and the dust and the small pieces of light and waited to do his part if a mistake made him necessary. I did not make the mistake. I cut the remaining cage in 4 small seams. Each piece folded. Each line died. The seed was naked now. It was a dark stone shape with marks on it that only meant apocalypse. I pressed the tip of my needle into its exact center and unmade the core without cracking the shell. The light went out. I closed my hand and removed the shell atom by atom without blowing dust. It was gone. Cyborg exhaled into the channel. Clean. No residue. Batman's tone didn't change. Anymore. Scanning, Cyborg said. 2 more seeds along the rim. Both at similar depth. Both asleep. Both will wake if touched by vibration. I'll handle them, I said. I can lift the dust off in a low-pressure blanket, Superman offered. It will float into a shield. You cut only the cores. Good, I said. Do it. He moved his hands apart and made a thin curtain of air with his own field. The dust around the first seed rose in a sheet and drifted into the curtain. He held it in place with careful breath and a light hand. The seed lay exposed in the small hole. I put my needle into the core and ended it. No flash. No issue. The second went the same. Cyborg ticked through his results. All 3 seeds gone. No remaining lines. No cloak. The field is content to fail. Batman took it in as if it was a weather report. Maintain scan. Do not assume they are finished. They are not finished, Jayon said. But this wave is quiet. We hung above the moon for a minute. The view was clear. Earth stood off to the side, clean and blue. I did not stare. I checked my hands. No tremor. The key moved like I wanted. My shoulder still had a line of heat from the earlier lance. It was fading. Superman looked at me. You were careful. I am always careful when it matters, I said. He gave a small nod. You did not scrape the dust. I like clean work, I said, smiling. Cyborg's channel pinged again. I'm done with full pulses. I can push a half pulse if something small pops. Save it, Batman said. We are at diminishing returns. Agreed, Cyborg said. Hal came onto the team channel with a steadier tone now. City is quiet. I built a floating trash bag over Midtown in case anything falls. It is empty. Diana followed calmly. Police are dismissing the last cordon. I will return to Washington unless you need me. Stand by, Batman said. We are not finished until Victor says clear. Cyborg took 8 seconds to check his instruments and then said, clear. Good, Batman said. Main unit, return at your pace. Hal and Diana, maintain a patrol grid for 1 hour. Flash, assist with traffic flow and then rest. Victor, watchtower on wide scan. Jayon, continue mental sweep. Understood, Superman said. I took one more breath of quiet near the rim and then turned. We left the moon at a steady pace. The black gave way to blue. The air returned. The city spread beneath us again. The rail yard looked orderly. The crowd had thinned. We sat down near the same block. Hal was where he had said he would be, leaning against the billboard construct with the aura turned low. Barry had an empty cup in his hand and a satisfied face. Diana stood off to the side, still, monitoring the police lines with one look. Hal pushed off and floated over. You two left me with the bill. You left yourself with the bill, Barry said, grinning. Hal pointed at me. He can pay. I shook my head. I save planets. I collect favors. Diana glanced at us and then back at the perimeter. You can argue after the briefing. Always so stern, Hal said, but he moved to the side when she stepped forward. Superman landed and looked at the captain again. Any injuries? Minor and handled, she said. We're shutting down the cordon now. Good, he said. Cyborg pinged all of us. I pushed the lunar seed patterns to the archive. If they try again, we can match and answer faster. The whitelist held at full strength, by the way. The watchtower did not flinch when you moved. Nice work, I said. Next time, don't juggle marbles in my station, he said, but he was smiling in his voice. Jaeon spoke one last time. The mind I was watching is gone. It pulled back through the far point. He will not be here today. Batman listened to all of it and then said, debrief in 1 hour. Do not wander. Define wander, Hal said. Do not test me, Batman said. Hal saluted in a lazy way. Yes, sir. Diana gave one small shake of the head and turned to go. I will return to the hall. Superman watched her lift and then looked at me. You still hungry? Yes, I said. Hal slid between us. I was serious about tacos. Barry held up both hands. I will make sure he pays. We started walking. The block was quiet. The air had the smell of diesel, metal, and hot concrete. Sirens were far rather than near. People were watching from corners, phones up and down, but the line held, and the police stayed in control. Superman stayed a half step behind and watched everything with that even gaze. He did not relax. He worked. I understood that. I also wanted food. Victor, I said, tapping the COMM. If any more echoes twitch, ping me first. I will, he said. And I am fine with you eating, as long as you do not eat in the Watchtower lab. No promises, I said. Of course, he said, and cut the line. We reached the corner. Hal pointed at a truck parked by a side street. The sign was hand-painted. The smell was simple. Barry's eyebrows went up. This will do. It will, I said. We stopped. The man at the window stared at us for a second like his eyes needed to catch up. Then he put his hands back on the grill. Hal ordered in a practiced voice. Barry added extra sauce. I waited, hands loose, shoulders light. Superman did not order. He listened to his COMM. Then he looked at me. Kara is on approach from National City for a patrol circuit. Say hello for me, I said. I will, he said. The truck owner handed out baskets. Hal dug in and closed his eyes in a way that said the taste was acceptable. Barry ate fast and then slower. I ate steady. It wasn't amazing. It was fuel. It did the job. The COMM clicked one more time. Batman again. Status unchanged. Stay aware. Always, I said into the line. Superman gave me a look that said I didn't need to say it out loud. I smiled and kept eating. He shook his head and looked up at the sky again. We finished. Hal threw the baskets in a bin with a neat toss. Barry stretched his back. Diana's presence faded on the wind. The city settled into its own rhythm again. The moon sat in the bright day like a strong mark. I didn't stare. I had work and food and friends and a station that finally understood how to read me. That was enough for an hour.